in this room, Strathmore people, so you'll have to give us a few minutes, okay?
It's good to move, but try to be quiet so that everybody who hasn't heard where they are yet can hear.
LR3 is UDSM ally Benhai and Youssef against UDSM Frederick Douglass. Shh. LR4, KCMC against Tharaka, winner takes all. LR4. LR5, I think Helen has it up here too if you need it. LR5, Nikito Game Changers against Merrick's team, LR5. Merrick's here, right?
No. Yes, against UDF,
Yep.
UDSM.
LR6, IAA, USIP against UDSM, Goda, Isaac, and Festo. That's LR6. LR7 is going to be Lily's team against USIS, Makina Rabasa. LR8 is Serena's team against IAA, Henry Benjamin, and Princess Ibrahim. And LR9 is Strathmore Powerpuff Girls against Nikito, the Argument Avengers. Debaters, please find your room. Judges, stay put.
Sorry, for Strathmore, my Powerpuff Girls is LR9, correct?
What's your team name?
Powerpuff Girls.
Yes, LR9.
LR9.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Winner takes it all.
Oh yes, you're Tharaka. Sorry, I did say you, but I didn't say your team name. LR4. 4. Yep, good luck. No debate. I'm sorry. Judges, don't move. Can we make a note, Helen? LR6. I am suspicious. That's the guy who came up to me, I think, and was like, I'm not going to debate. So I just want to make sure that it happens. Yes?
Do you know where Taasisi was?
Oh, no.
Pioneers.
Yes, I feel like you're in here. Maybe you're not. Yes, you're in here, so just give us a moment, okay? You're going to be in this room.
We are which side?
You're Persuasive Pioneers, you're affirmative. Affirmative. Go. Yes, but don't go yet. The judges I'm keeping, but yes. I told you before I should have, Dom. Debaters, now is the time to find your room.
I've got it.
You got it, great. Oh, genius. Any debaters still in here? Are we ready for judges? Do you know where you're going? Okay. Okay, judges, I think we have you ready to go. We have checked. These should be people that you really haven't seen before. Maybe you've seen them on a different side, but I think pretty much no. Pretty much you shouldn't have seen these teams. So that's it. That's all. Dominic, you are in room 1. LR10 is Micah chairing with Elijah on the panel. Micah, chair, and then Micah, you're chairing. LR10, you may go. Diana's going to be in LR11, okay? And that's 2 Nikito's schools. So, LR12 is going to be Wycliffe. You're chairing. Where'd Wycliffe go? Oh. And then Eric, you're going to be with Wycliffe in 12. Faith, you'll be in room 2 along with Simon. Simon? Where'd Simon go?
Simon.
You're Simon? Faith. In 3, we're going to have Charlie Rose. Yes. With, no, Faith is in 2. Yes, sorry, Faith, you're in 2. And then Charlie Rose, you're going to be in LR3 along with the other Faith, Ellie Faith.
Faith and Faith again?
Faith and Faith again?
No, it's Charlie Rose with Ellie Faith.
Oh, Charlie Rose, sorry. Yes, Charlie Rose and Faith, okay.
In room 4, LR4. They're all LR. I'm going to stop saying LR. In 4, we're going to have Esther chairing along with Steven. In 5, LR10. Oh, LR10, you're going to go over there and walk up the steps, and then it's on the right, okay? Come grab me if you can't find it. In LR5 is Armin chairing along with Andrew. Come up, Andrew. Fantastic. Armin, say hello. Get to know each other. Moses, you're going to be in room 6. Hello. What's your name? Steven, you're going to be with Esther in room 4. 4. Trevor, you're chairing in room 7 along with Asante. Right there. There's Trevor. Delia, you're going to be chairing in room 8 with Sharon. And then Marianne, I've got you in room 9 by yourself. Am I missing? You're not judging. Sorry. Trevor, you're in room 7. You know exactly where it is. Yeah. Boom. Yeah, that's way better to do it this way.
You're looking at all my pictures. What do you want to see? You just want to see where you're going.
Room 2, you can come in and start getting ready. Whoever's debating in here.
What's your name? Oh, let's send you to LR9.
Yeah, go to LR9. Oh, Miriam, LR9. You're gonna judge with her.
Marianne, you now have a
Yay!
panelist.
Do we need to add him?
I thought that he was not here, and I.
It's fine.
Took out his availability,
I feel like he hasn't been here.
change it for-
Where are my debaters in here? Are you guys debating in here? Strathmore! Strathmore in this room. Get on in here.
Where are you from originally?
Maryland.
Maryland.
Does it seem like I'm from Maryland? In a good way or a bad way?
You know, Maryland, I guess, is okay. You sounded a little like Virginia-ish.
Oh,
You sounded
yeah.
slightly below the Mason-Dixon line.
Oh. We have to go, guys.
I don't like that.
That we have to go?
Yes.
I agree, but
What happened to all the IA people that came yesterday that didn't come today?
the IAA people, yeah, the IAA, well, they thought they were going to be debating in their own school, so. You're debating, yeah, Strathmore? Strathmore, you don't get to hide in the back. You have to come up to the front of the room. I'm so sorry, Strathmore. I'm going to move this. So sorry.
Gosh, you all are just
I will move these.
way to go. Wise people.
You can move that, too.
You're gonna crush these boys.
Kirsten, we're rooting for you. Oh, and here's the, I'm about to steal a microphone. Virginia, I don't think I get it. Do you think I have this? I don't know. Outside. There are outlets outside. And I have my adapter. I'm bringing him.
Hello. You guys the persuasive. Exactly. Could you please?
Okay, fine. If it is touching everyone,
We should probably get our plates out here.
I know, I'm working on it.
Sorry to interrupt. Would you please use the mic when talking? Personally, it's okay. There are two, that one and this.
The sound check, it's good?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. So, hi guys. How do you feel? Great? Tuko tayari kuanza. Oh, you need more time. We're good. Okay, sawa. Welcome again kwenye hii round. My name is Faith.
Simon.
So, sijajua which side is which. Labda tujitambulishe.
Proposition.
Okay. Okay, basi mtatupa your names at the end kwa ajili ya scores. That fine?
Why don't we do it? We can do it now.
Now? Or at the time, sababu we need, okay. I wanted to note them down. Okay, let's start the prop side, right? Your name? Anzal. My friend, your name?
Atta.
What?
Atta.
Atta. A-W. Okay.
Akio.
Okay. Okay. My friends, your names?
Chantal. C-H.
C.
Yeah, Chantal.
Mm-hmm.
As the
Okay.
Ayak as the second speaker.
What?
Ayak. A-Y-A-K.
Interesting names I've never met before. Yes?
Natasha.
Natasha. Okay. So, ready when you are, we can start. It's okay. Yeah.
Hello everyone. I am Anzel and I am proposing a motion. Co-governance is a system. I'm first going to start by defining what co-governance is. Co-governance is a system in which decision-making authority of our project is formally shared between the government, private investors, and the local communities, rather than being controlled by one or two actors only. So my first argument is going to be those who bear the costs must share the power. I believe that there is a fundamental injustice in the current model of development. The government approves the project, the investors finance the project, but the local communities are the ones bearing these consequences. Yet they are the ones who don't get to take part in the decision-making process at all. When land is acquired for mining, oil extractions, dams, or large agricultural projects, it's often local people who lose homes, grazing land, cultural sites, and livelihoods. Yet under the status quo, they have a little influence over those decisions that directly affect their lives. So co-governance corrects this imbalance by ensuring that those who bear the risks also have a seat at the table. I'm going to make an example. In the oil-rich Niger Delta, communities have long complained about environmental degradation, pollution, inadequate benefits, despite the enormous wealth generated from oil extraction, done by the Royal Shell, the Royal Dutch, and the Nigerian government. The problem was never lack of resources. The problem was that decisions were made for communities rather than with communities. My second argument is co-governance prevents conflicts and improves project success. Ladies and gentlemen, projects fail when communities feel ignored, when people believe decisions are imposed upon them rather than being involved. They resist through protests, legal challenges, roadblocks, and sometimes violence. This delays projects far more than consultation would ever. Co-governance addresses problems before they become crises. In Ghana, mining operations have periodically faced tensions with sounding communities over land use, environmental concerns, and compensations. Where companies and authorities engage communities more meaningfully, social acceptance and project stability improved. My third point is co-governance helps end the resource cuts. Many African countries are rich in natural resources, but they are poor in human development outcomes. Why? Because the wealth is often concentrated in political elites and corporations, while local communities receive little benefits. As I have mentioned earlier, Nigeria is a country that is rich when it comes to oil. The government and the investors, they extract oils worth billions of dollars while the country stays poor. Co-governance creates accountability. It allows communities to monitor promises, track revenue, and ensure benefits actually reach those who have been affected. I'm going to make another example. Botswana is frequently cited as one of Africa's better examples of resource management. While not a perfect co-governance model, its success was built on strong institutions, accountability, and more equitable management of diamond wealth compared to many resource-rich states. My fourth argument is going to be co-governance creates legitimate development rather than imposed development. The most important question in this debate is not whether development occurs, it is how this development occurs. Throughout history, governments have justified projects by claiming that they serve the public interests. However, too often, development is imposed upon communities rather than shaped alongside them. The most important when development is imposed upon people without meaningful power, it frequently creates resentment, resistance, and profound sense of injustice. Even beneficial projects can be perceived as unjust if affected communities have no real influence over them. A prime example is the San Martin region in Peru, studied by the Center for International Forestry Research. The government established the Cordillera Azul National Park to protect the environment and generate carbon credit revenue. While the environmental outcomes seemed positive on paper, it's up.
My first question is the co-governance on your side, does that mean like equality in terms of each of the three parties? Or is that going to be like biased with like the government having a bigger say?
No, it's going to be equality.
Equality, okay, cool. And then secondly, corruption and bribery still exist on your side of the world. So how exactly are we going to get accountability when like government officials can be bribed, and even in status quo, like government and these private investors, they already have like their backdoor deals. So how do you guys prove that it's not just face value, what's it called? Face value participation and not tangible participation?
Since the local communities have an actual say in the decisions that are affecting them, they get to track everything that's happening. There is complete transparency. Another question.
The Chad-Cameroon Petroleum Development and Pipeline Project practiced co-governance. Can you explain why it failed terribly?
I did not talk about that point.
No, this is a question of a very good example here in Africa that practiced co-governance.
Okay,
So I'm assuming you did.
you can ask about better.
Is the problem really that the communities don't have a say, or that the government have weak institutions that we're supposed to strengthen and actually get the moderation we need?
Okay, in co-governance, the community has an actual say in whatever that's happening. Can you rephrase your question, please? Can you repeat it?
I'm asking the problem because you come here and tell us about accountability. So is the problem really the fact that the community aren't getting a say, or the problem is the weaker institutions, meaning there's corruption, there's bribery, which still exists in your side of the world?
Okay, that corruption. Okay, corruption does exist, but then this corruption can be confronted when these communities get a say in these decisions. But like they can't, these people cannot be corrupted. These people cannot be corrected if they are the only ones making the decisions. Let's say the government and the investors are the only people deciding how whatever that's going to happen with these people and their land. But if the people have a say in it, they can even, like, since we live in a democratic world, they can even vote out that that government.
We already have that in status quo, so why do we need an equal measure of governance?
Huh?
And we already have the voting out of corrupt leaders in status quo, so why do we need an extra layer of equality where we can just make the people who have a say in the community corrupt them instead?
Another question. We all know money is power. How would you hold the investors who try to override the initial agreement you had between the state and the
What?
The investors who try
Okay.
to...
Okay, I will try and answer it in this way. The government, like in the co-governance, the government is on the local community side. So they are obviously looking out what's best. They're going to do what's best for the local community. They're not going to allow these investors to exploit them. What we are trying to fight is exploitation.
So what's the incentive for this representative not to turn to the community, like, and just enrich themselves instead?
I never mentioned that these people, okay, the local communities, they get to have a say in it, and like every now and then they can come and raise issues about their members. Since they also have a say in decision making, they can keep changing they can change their representative if they feel like these representatives are not good for their interests.
4 minutes for the examination time back. Oh, it's 4 minutes.
It's 4 minutes.
Yeah.
It's 4 minutes.
No.
We've been doing 2 since morning.
In all the other
That's what I
rounds.
assume.
Gosh, bruh.
In all the other rounds.
Yeah.
So
It's 4. I think 2 minutes is preparation for cross-examination.
Oh my.
And then after it,
Before the third speaker.
What do you mean?
Sorry.
2 minutes preparation?
Now
at
you
least
know.
now you know. It's good. I think this is their mic.
Okay. is here, okay? Cool. If you could remind me when I have 5 minutes left, that would be cool. I mean, no, when the 5th minute reaches, so when I have 1 minute left. Okay, hi, my name is Chantal. I'm happy to be here today. I think, yeah, you guys are actually our second Strathmore team, so let's see how things go. My time will, I'll tell you when my time starts. In like, okay. My time will start in 3, 2, 1. Poverty, somebody once said that poverty is the most dehumanizing thing any individual can go through. This is due to the fact, like the lack of autonomy when it comes to their own decision making, and even just like in terms of their own self-actualization, since they don't have the means to do basically anything, they have to cater to the needs of other people. So they're more likely to just be incentivized by survival or short-term thinking rather than long-term thinking, right? In a lot of these affected communities, this is the reality in the land, where it's like, we have a lot of rural development. Because remember, we're not just dealing with any nations, these are African states, right? In Africa, especially like sub-Saharan Africa, we have like rampant rural poverty as well as even urban poverty with the amount of slums we have and all of these things. So in terms of our actors, our key actors in this sense are the governments. Government's main initiative should be safeguarding individuals as well as like economic development of a nation as well as poverty alleviation, which does come with economic growth, right? So what do these governments want, you must be asking? These guys want development, whether it's for the optics or for like the optics so they can say, oh yeah, we are a developed nation, blah, 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 whatever it is. These guys want energy, infrastructure, industrialization, and employment, mainly for the betterment of their own citizens, right? So these governments are also should act as a mediator because they are impartial, because remember, they are also seen as a voice to the people, right? And they have a moral obligation, not only just due to the social contract of when I vote you in, you should be able to then cater to my needs, but other things as well. The other thing is citizens, not just within these affected communities, but for the entire country, right? So people outside of these things, public services are funded by these resource revenues. What does this mean? If we are able to have these different things in terms of the major land and development programs, right, we're better able to have better healthcare for everybody. This is including the affected communities. Better healthcare, better education, better things that then mitigate the risks that come with poverty, right? Other things like infrastructure development also help these people, right? National interest should not be held at the, should not be held hostage by local interest of very few people. Private investors, what do they want? They want fast approvals, lower transaction costs, clear accountability structures, and predictability, right? When you have this, co-governance does not lead to this because it leads to more negotiations, more actors involved, more uncertainty. This means the investments, they'll be more likely to run away, or investor risk will decrease, will increase because they don't want to invest in places where now it's uncertain whether the development programs will even happen. The first point we have is in terms of efficiency. In terms of efficiency, development requires efficient decision making. What does this mean? Large projects are already extremely complex with like so much bureaucracy within themselves, and this is just the government deciding this, right? Now, when you just include these people, they don't actually have a meaningful say. They are trying to frame it in a way that now, all of a sudden, the affected communities will have an equal say to the government and to these to the other stakeholders. But we tell you that's an absolute lie. Just like my second speaker asked in a question, the point, finances play such a key role, right? And remember, just as the way I framed our actors, these people care about survival and short-term thinking. People are very selfish in nature, and they will always prioritize their own interests over the interests of the larger community. And maybe they'll try and frame it as a pro in terms of co-governance, but we tell you that's wrong.
because also this co-governance leads to constraints in terms of the government's ability to make decisions. You now make it so much longer before these development projects even happen. So you're not helping these people in the short term, but you're also not helping them in the long term because these development projects end up taking way longer. Maybe you want to say, okay, we're cutting costs in terms of like the courts will not happen, but we tell you deadlocking is going to happen with the planning process of it all, which is not a good thing because now projects that should take faster or would be better with the first mover advantage don't even get to happen because, for example, yeah, something happens. Another example is local elite capture. Local nominations are biased. So whoever they vote into the committee or however they want to frame it, traditional leaders, wealthy families, local politicians, these guys have a higher sway within these local communities. What does this mean? Easy persuasion to the rest of the community, as well as co-governance is not actually empowering the vulnerable actor, it's empowering the local elites. Right? The vulnerable actors will still be vulnerable, their voice will still not be heard. They're trying to make it seem like all of a sudden the farmers will be heard because you vote in like a farmer who owns the largest amount of land. But that person is easily persuaded if you like pay them money to leave, because remember at the end. Okay, thank you. Another thing, so our counter model is to fix the small issues in current works, right? The government is the main person that should be in this because remember, the incentives are to help all the citizens within this nation. So these local affected communities do matter. And they're able to hold these private investors accountable because remember, there's so many private investors. It's not that we always have to stick with one private investor. So they have the opportunity to choose whoever they want. And they also have the means and all of that. So government have the power and the capacity to do this. We are not saying that locals should not be included in this at all. But what we're saying is we should include the local knowledge, not necessarily putting them on the same wavelength as government or all other things. So in terms of the development projects, because development projects are more likely to be sustainable if you include local knowledge. We can include that local knowledge, but just like including them in a subcommittee or something like that, not necessarily on equal balance with the government and all other things. The major clashes in this is who should control, like, who leads to better outcomes for everybody. And in that side of the world, they're kind of pushing neocolonialism. Oops. Yeah, time is up. But our three main points are efficiency, government already includes reps, local elite capture, and reduced investment and competitiveness. Thanks. Is this my water? No, it's not. Yes.
If the government already represents what is best for the people, why do so many extractive projects face protests from their own citizens?
That's because they're not being heard in status quo. But we're showing you that even though you put them in these, like at the same level as government, which you can't really do, you're just putting like a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. You're not actually going to lead to the outcomes that you guys want to lead to, and that's my biggest issue. Some of these issues are not mutually exclusive to our side, but you guys are not making the concessions needed to then prove why your side works better than our side. So, yeah. And also, if we're talking about that in terms of who they decide to vote in, if they're voting in wrong people into government, who tells you that they're now all of a sudden going to be able to vote or nominate the correct people when it comes to choosing who should be their spokespeople in this specific way when it comes to these development projects?
Okay, if the government is corrupt and they a lot of times rig, what do you say? If they rig elections, how are they going to look out what's best for the citizens?
Yeah, we're trying to take the government at the best case scenario because remember, we're talking about democratically elected government. As much as all of these things may happen, that's why we're saying our counter model is to fix the small issues rather than trying to now deconstruct the entire system to then rebuild it the way that you guys are talking about. Because in reality, the major problem can be like transparency in terms of accountability or all these different things. But even if you include even if you include the affected communities within this discussion space, they're not actually going to have an equal say as much as you want to. You guys have not proven to me why they will get this equal say. And yeah, so yes, transparency and accountability is what we need to work on, not necessarily what you're saying. And also the government technically does have an incentive to the citizens.
I don't have a question, but I believe she mentioned that the communities are equal, not that they have an equal say, but they're equal, but they don't have an equal say.
I asked a specific question. I asked,
You
in
asked them.
co-governance, does this mean like equal input in all of the ways? And then she said, yes, they are equal. Not the communities within each other, but the community, the government, and the private investors, because those are the three people included. Yeah.
So they are equal, but they don't have equal say.
You guys have not proven to me why it will actually be equal. What we are saying is yours is a visible, you're trying to give them something, but it's just like a trophy for the sake of giving them a trophy, when in reality they don't actually have an equal say. Because the government can easily bribe them, the private investors and the government already have their own things happening behind the scenes, so maybe they decide what's happening. Yeah, and you've not talked about like a veto power or anything like that.
And can you explain why the possibility of local elite capture justifies concentrating power in national political elites and multinational corporations who have historically captured resources for greater, who captured far greater resources? Okay.
He's in the elitism argument.
Yeah, can I respond? I'm not saying that the local elite capture doesn't mean that elite capture isn't happening on a grand scheme, but even on the grand scheme of things, there are better ways that we can use to implement this. And if your way isn't really solving the main issues at hand, or it's just superficially solving them, we're trying to say that we don't agree with superficially solving these issues if we're not actually going to solve these issues in the first place. And that's why we disagree with what you guys are saying.
Okay.
But my second speaker can go more in depth on that point.
I think that is the time.
My time starts now. Thank you, everyone. I'll first of all start by saying the main thing we focus, both the affirmatives and the opposers, is that we need accountability. How will we provide this accountability as the proposers? We need to understand that development, it's not about how big you grow, but how you're growing together. So you can't justify development by 5 people growing and leaving the 50 others behind and say that's development. So our method is more convened on making all of us grow. This cannot be sustained using the opposers' methods, because how can you tell me that you only include the knowledge of the community but not include them in the positions of the high ranks? Because that means that you're there for your knowledge, but you're not paid. You're not earning from your knowledge. You're not earning the same way as the top level earners are earning. Development is not fundamentally an economic process, but a human process. That's what I'm basically saying. For the disadvantages of the opposer's side is that this will hinder fairness and sovereignty of an African country. For example, in fairness, it means that, for example, Ghana, it grows cocoa, 80% of the world's cocoa. Yes, and it earns 6% from it, which means that this is done by it harvests the cocoa, but then they should process it and make it to be a refined material before exporting it. But what they do is that they only harvest it and export it. So the Europeans or any other country refines it and then sells it at a higher price. This means that when you're allowing more people to the country, they'll exploit you because of your lack of knowledge or infrastructure. This was mitigated somewhere in Zimbabwe when they banned exporting of unfinished materials on on lithium, on cobalt. So what they did is they banned exports of unfinished materials so that when a country wants to set up a factory inside, it must have the technology of processing and refining it so that it can export it and earn the country the materials. So for sovereignty, it means that the African country, doesn't have power to make its own decisions regarding its own problems. This means that the people coming in are the ones having the top priorities in what the matters are. By having the Nini co-governed, it means that it's our problem and it's us who will solve the solution, because you can't tell me that you're facing the risks as a community, but then you're getting the lowest payment of the risk you're facing. So by that, we should focus more on having the community being paid higher, because they're the ones who are having the highest risk. And with that, I think I'll try to rest my case.
So, would you rather the community is not developed because it doesn't want to be helped, and we all know it doesn't have the financial backing, or we actually get to help it with the government and we help the national as a whole? How are you, when you come and tell us you'd rather have 5 people develop more than 50?
There's a kind of help. If you want to actually help someone, you can't tell me that you're coming to help me, but then you're continuing to help me. That means there's something you're also gaining from helping me, because you can't come and help me and still continue to help me for like 15 years. That means there's something you're profiting. That's exploitation.
So would you rather people are not developed at all?
No.
Is that what you're saying?
That's not what I'm saying.
So how will you develop if we move to other countries, for example? Because this is Africa and it has vast resources, and so if you're not going to provide the resources here, we're just going to get it in another country.
So you should also get help from another person who has an interest more on what you have or what you want.
Wait, in your model, why is the community gaining more and you're supposed to be equal partners?
Because it's the community's resource. Why should someone who only has the money to invest but doesn't actually bear the risks or lives with the resources profit more?
What's the likelihood of that occurring in reality, especially seeing, as you've already said, like the private investors and the government, they already get majority of the thing. So what incentive do they have to join this partnership when they're now going to have to like lower their interests by so much?
it's not lowering your interest, but how long you're earning the interest.
But right now, they're still earning,
Yeah.
Right now, they're still able to earn that interest like completely by strong arming these people. On our side of the world, the affected communities are still included in the discussions, but through like subcommittees or other different ways, not on an equal basis, because in reality, that equalness is not real. And I think you guys are trying to push for equity when now you say they should earn more, but I'm not understanding how that's going to come about.
They should benefit more because then again I say they are bearing the risks. For example, in Congo, where cobalt is mined, it's mined by Chinese or the Europeans, but the people mining it, the people suffering from the pollution, are getting the least benefit.
Okay, very good. The status, the motion is asking the probe to actually balance the three, but then on your side of the house, you want the community to achieve more, which means the government and investors would be below you. Now, as the community, you mentioned in Ghana, you get 8%.
6.
Does that fall 6%? Does that fall to the state or to the community?
I think it's shared, and I didn't dig deep.
It's
Just
shared
Ghana, yeah.
between the state and community.
Yeah.
So that negates the fact that you want the community to have more than that.
Yeah, I want yeah, true.
In the Ghana situation, is it that they get more because that's a bad deal they entered by choice, or is it because they just did not care about the local community? Is it a show of weak institutions, and that's corruption and everything which is asymmetrical in both sides of the world, or is it because we failed to listen to the local community?
That is why co-governance will help in the accountability, because
what accountability measure does co-governance give that status quo doesn't?
it involves the community.
So a community with no say, how does that work?
So that's why I contradicted her point. She told us that the community will be included, but only in their points, but not in their positions.
But they can still get paid for their points in subcommittee. And when they are in these subcommittees, then they're more likely to actually advocate for themselves and be heard.
It may be more let's say more encouraging if someone is actually there with the big players, someone from the community or the community itself.
Okay. Point of clarity. On your side of the house, you're fighting for community-led projects rather than...
Hey. So you rested me. No, I rested.
I didn't know that was a thing.
It's 4 minutes mark.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
You're put on trial.
Okay. So, what do we do?
It's your turn to speak.
You just ignore that question.
Yeah.
Too much. Oh my God, sorry.
Yeah, this is 5 minutes and 30 seconds.
So 1 minute 30 seconds.
That was more than time.
Now, what are those things compared to the world? And why a government should work?
Just in addition to engagement.
I think that's where I'll even begin. You're timing me. Let me get your phone. You can also time, but then I feel better this. Okay. Okay. Time set. Check. I'll begin in my speech in 3, open, 2, 3, 2, 2.5, 2 3/4, 3, 2, 1, go. Panel, note that they shifted from their original stance where they were supposed to stand as co-governance between the 3 states. They shifted to a community-led projects like kind of organization where the community should benefit more. The community should actually like have more because to them, the community has more risk. Now, engaging on what they said in community-led kind of projects, and since that is where the debate is now, we tell you that community-led projects are actually not, because we prefer government-led projects. Let me give you some really good examples where community-led projects have failed here, right here in Africa. We have, why have they failed? Because like she said, people tend to be very selfish. And these communities prioritize local livelihoods and ancestral ownership over formal laws. These decentralized projects frequently disrupt corporate production, the investors, and starve the state of tax revenue. It affects the government at the end of the day. A very good example is the community diamond raids at Maranga Field in Zimbabwe. Another example is the Zamazamas mine occupations in South Africa, but and also the gold mining networks, North Mara and Geita here in Tanzania. The negative impact community-led projects such as this have had is that they took control from the major diamond-bearing fields, completely derailing multi-million-dollar exploration and mechanization schedules set by foreign investors. The massive volume of community-led, unregulated extraction flooded the informal markets, directly stripping the national treasury of critical foreign currency reserves and undermining the state's central diamond monopoly. You find that the government of Zimbabwe, for example, relies on diamond trade as its major income. But when the communities jump in, take the market into their own hands, take the revenue, and at the end of the day, you find that these community-led projects, they don't even share with other communities. For example, let's say Center A is where the diamonds are. They will take that money to develop themselves if they even wish. They will never share with other people of that same nations. And this is where the government comes in. We tell you that the government would take this revenue and distribute it across the whole country, unlike in their side of the world where they're very selfish, where they deadlock and they gridlock. A very good example of how gridlock has happened, where communities keep things to themselves, is in Congo. Where mining has occurred, the wealth is locked by militias, rebels, and informal mining practices, rather than benefiting the broader communities. We tell you on our side of the world that you should strengthen the government instead. You should remove these weak links we have, rather than creating a whole new system that is actually not benefiting everyone in the country at the end of the day. It's not benefiting the government, the other counties and areas around that are not diamond rich. It's not benefiting the investors. It's only benefiting those communities who tend to be selfish, and that is where the government comes in. We also tell you we do not want investor-led, finished community-led, and why it is bad, with very relevant examples. Investor-led extraction historically devastated local African communities. We find that these projects, often from foreign private capital, trigger forced evictions, destroy local food security, and degrade ancestral lands. A very good example is Bidco, a palm oil project located in Kalangala district in Uganda, where these people went in, displaced the local community, caused starvation because of food insecurity, just by they cut down trees, took over farmlands to create palm. We also have Another example of investor-led projects that have happened are the Chad-Cameroon oil pipeline project that I clearly asked them at the beginning. At the beginning, it began as a co-governed kind of thing, right? Give me a moment. At the beginning, it began as a co-governed thing, but how did it fail? Like I asked them how it failed. It failed when the investors actually became greedy at a point, when the investors breached the original contract. It began when the president took the only remaining revenue that came and decided to invest it in the military rather than the agreed project of alleviating poverty in Chad and Cameroon. What effects did it have on the community? There was a 1,070-kilometer hole dug in Chad and Cameroon that was not finished. It just remained there. The kids would get harmed. Livestock would get harmed. There was also fishing grounds were utterly destroyed because oil poured into the fishing grounds, into the lakes and rivers. The investors at the end of the day, when they saw this was a failure, what did they do? They packed and left. The government, it just decided to like sit back because the community cost this at the end of the day. They decided to breach the original contract. We tell you that co-governed states projects are failing, and this is a very good example. On our side of the world, we tell you that we prefer state-governed, and why? The Geita gold mine in Tanzania is a very successful gold mine right here in Tanzania because it is governed by the state. It is governed by the government, not by the community, not by the investors who only want to maximize their profits, not caring how it is affecting the community, how it is affecting the environment, the pollution it is causing. Now, Tanzania's Modernized Mining Act, the state mandates strict joint oversight and completely, and local content laws. Thank you very much. In summary, I gave you a brief overview of 4 worlds: the world where co-governance exists, world where community leads, the world where investor leads, and our world where government leads. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
What have you been doing?
2 of them.
It's 4 speakers in total. Two.
No, she just finished speaking.
Okay, she'll be the last one.
I'll be the last cross-examination.
So maybe
Third
your
speakers you don't
questions
have.
for her.
Oh.
She's the second speaker.
So don't you had 2 cross-examinations?
No.
We've had only 1.
Well, we've heard 3. This is the
3
fourth
so
one.
far. So 4th, and we are done with cross-examination. What have you guys been doing in your room?
In a simple count, we are supposed to have 6 speakers and 4 cross-examination for 4 speakers.
Oh my
What have you
god.
guys been up to?
Haven't the judges been correcting you guys?
We did not cross-examine her. Like we have only cross-examined her.
Yeah.
Yeah. She just finished
I just
speaking.
finished, so now you have to cross-examine me, and then we are done with cross-examination. And then, yeah.
Yeah, so it's your turn, guys.
You need prep time for questions, or? Natasha.
It's fun.
You guys have any questions?
Because my time went up, I was like, okay, let's see where this is going. And then you guys continue us, and then I was like, but I'm there. But they don't ask me that. And I was like, it's okay. But guys, we need to work on our own case.
So, in that case, you said Tanzania was very successful.
Yeah,
You said
Tanzania,
Tanzania was very
in
successful.
the Geita, I think it's called Geita
And
gold
the
mine.
government should have absolute say. So
Gold
you're saying
mine.
the community had no say in that gold mine thing, in that gold mine.
The community elected the government officials, so I
Yes.
believe they still have a say in everything.
But you believe that the only say they had was through those elected officials. They didn't have a say.
Yeah, that is the point
'Cause
of
it
the
seems-
government at the end of the day, because you elect your leaders, right?
Yes,
I
but-
think Tanzania does that.
But yes, Sasa, during that process, let's say the elections were in 2022,
Okay,
and the gold mine was happening in 2024.
okay.
they're dependent on the government that to make the decision for the gold mine, and not the people when it was happening in 2024. They didn't go to the people and see the say of the people. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that at the end of the day, every country, every citizen has to trust the person you've elected into office. You have to trust that that person has your best interest at heart. That person cannot take a decision or sign a contract that will harm you.
What you said, you mentioned how the government was the ultimate say. They did not include the opinion of investors. They did not.
I mentioned government-led. The same way you want community-led, we want government-led.
The way you said it, the way you phrased it, it's the government. These people, community, they had no say because they elected the officials, and therefore, because they elected the officials, when that deal comes, it only has to be a conversation between the government and the people who are bringing the vote.
Have you heard of
go to the community to
They
receive.
should. That's literally how things work
but
in
she
reality.
gave the
No.
example.
Okay, let me answer.
Even in the
Let's-
example,
I
I am
Okay.
allowed to speak.
Okay, everyone is supposed to.
I'm allowed to
hold
speak
the
if I
person
can.
being cross-examined.
Okay, my time, guys, my time.
Only her. Everyone can
No,
help her.
I'm also allowed to speak because in the other rooms, you're allowed to also make an input.
Have you paused my time at this point? Pause my time, please.
If she was still there, she's the one answering the questions. That's how we do it.
But then in the other rooms, okay, it's like
Wow.
even yesterday
I
when
think
they
needs to
gave
be
the
fixed.
example,
Everyone?
Yeah.
in the other when
As
they,
long as you're from my team, you can answer the questions that are posed to us.
yeah, it's just she's the primary source. Because the example, the analogy they gave yesterday is like, oh, what did he say? He said strong speakers don't need help, but like you can help.
If you do,
Yeah.
like if you have an additional information, you can.
Okay, because.
But I think you should confirm this at the end of the day.
We will confirm about that, but I was explaining how it takes place. Like if she was sitting there right there in front, the questions were being directed to her. Maybe if she turned to you and asked for help, like how can you help me answer that? You
okay.
see, because right now you're sitting three, that's where you're able to answer the questions.
Okay, that's fine.
That's
You
the
answer the
benefit of
questions.
You guys sitting at your seats. But
okay,
if you
okay,
sit
okay.
there, you're going to answer the questions just as where he was doing.
Oh yeah.
He sat there, the questions are going to him.
Okay, that makes
Replied
sense.
to him. You
Okay.
understand?
Yeah.
How much time do I have left?
Now we're starting again.
1 minute and
90
a
seconds.
half. Okay, 90 seconds. Can you rephrase the question again, like
No, it's
quick?
okay.
It's
We
the
are
same?
Moving
Okay.
to the next question.
I didn't answer that one.
No, it's okay.
It's okay? Oh, okay.
As your partner said earlier, governments cannot be. We live in a we should look at the world in a realistic view, and governments cannot be trusted because they are corrupt. And right now, because they are corrupt and like they can be doing stuff behind the doors. And right now you are saying like we should blindly trust the same government that you are saying we cannot trust them earlier, and because they all of a sudden they have what is like they know what's best for the people. How does that work?
Okay, we are telling you that in the co-governance side of the world, they have investors, the government, then the people. You have two parties that, as the people now, you have two parties that you believe are practicing corruption and would harm you more. But when you come to our side of the world, where you only have one party that is in charge, we also know corruption exists on our side of the world. But we have accountability measures where now if you know it's one party, you're able to focus all your attention. Your citizens are able to focus their attention only on one party.
Okay. This is a yes or no question. You said one party has the right, like you just said, like the government. The government is the one who has the absolute right?
The government leads the project.
No, like you said it earlier. The government has the absolute right. That's what you said.
Yeah, what I clarified is that the government should lead the project instead of your world where you believe the community should lead this project. Thank you.
first I want to apologize to Chantal. I didn't mean to say like you're not allowed to talk. I was just thought that there was like a certain rule that one person talks. It wasn't like rude. Like I was just okay. Okay. Yes. Yeah, that's how I was speaking. If it came out rude, I'm sorry. Yes. Yes. Okay. I've noticed that.
I think that you should give one
Yeah.
This one is fine? Okay. Me first. Okay. Yes. Where are people? Should I wait for that?
No. You can take from the touch, I think.
So. Okay, my time begins in 3, 2, 1, go. So yes, this has been a very interesting debate. Thank you, judges. Thank you, debaters, for being here. And first thing I would like to clarify co-governance. What was said at the beginning of this all. Anzal mentioned what we define co-governance as. Co-governance was defined as a formal agreement between all stakeholders, where decision-making arrangement between the state, the private sector, investors, and affected communities, they're shared, they're agreed on. Decisions are agreed on formally before they're implemented. And so now I can just go on to speak about Chantal's points, or like the opposition as a whole, and where she did mention how the communities could follow their own self-interest, their own selfish intents, forgetting that the government and the investors also share their own selfish needs and prospects. So to say that it's only the communities that share that selfish interest and therefore the government should decide, the government should lead, is entirely false, because they also have their own selfish interests. They can also go into an agreement, not because they want everything best for the national interest of the country, but because they want interest for themselves. Maybe a certain investor has bribed them, maybe a certain community member has bribed them. And yes, they are correct to mention that there's corruption. There's corruption to the level of the community level, there's corruption at the investor level, there's corruption at the government level. But you didn't state the fact that there is also corruption at the government and investors level. And so therefore, it is absolutely false to say that it should be government-led. And yes, that is what we are addressing. We did not mention that communities should be led by one person, and one person should be able to make the decisions for the entire community. Actually, that's what we're against. That's what we're saying co-governance is. Co-governance is where the community is involved. The community is involved in the decision. So, and they formally agree to the decision. So what is the community? What we are defining the community as is a whole collective. We're not describing it as one local leader who decides for the rest of the community, but a local leader that listens to that community, a local leader that goes to the community and sees what the community has to say about a certain issue. And to address the point of selfishness and selfish interest as well, and the fact that communities do not hold onto the interests of the nation, and they do not hold onto national interests, I'd like to state Anzal's point, where she did mention the fact that there's legitimate development and there's also imposed development. Legitimate development goes a further way than imposed development. And what we're trying to look at ultimately is development. Development of the people, development of the nation. And there was the point that was pushed that these people only fight for their own interests, and therefore they should not be listened to. But as Anzal stated, that imposing on them creates a far more tragedy than doing it with them. Doing it with them and involving them creates better benefits than ever, give me a second. Doing it with the community, I was talking about tragedy. Tragedy comes more when the community is not involved, because you decide to not listen to the community, you decide to not listen to their, in quotes, selfish interests, you decide to not listen to their interests, and you say that it will benefit national interests. It might benefit, you might build that oil well, you might have that gold mine, like you said in Tanzania, without the community being involved. But once you get that gold mine, once you get that oil, these people will create something in their hearts that we call bitterness. That bitterness will not leave them. And they will lead to much more damage than you will ever think, because they were not involved in the decision. It will lead to back and forth. A good example about this, and why Anzal stated that it's a tragedy if they're not involved. Picture a father, picture a child, and the child is taken to rehabilitation. Maybe they have drug issues, and the father is saying this is the right thing. It could be the right thing, but more often than not, statistics, I don't have them right now, but more often than not, this person coming out of rehab will get even worse. Why? Because they were not involved in making the decision for themselves. Their parent was involved, so they will always have this bitterness. What is this leading to? This is leading to rebellion. This is leading to wars. This is leading to conflict. And so the point that it will not lead to conflict is also flawed. How many minutes do I have?
0.1 minutes.
1.1 minutes.
No, I have a minute.
Minute. So there's a point that I believe that these people also contradicted, and it was from the first opposition speaker, Chantal, and the idea of dealing with local elites. But I think I addressed that as well. The fact that the government and that community leader is the same.
Time is up.
1 minute has ended?
Yeah.
Okay, so. It wasn't my best, but it's okay. Oh.
Thank you. Yeah, okay. You'll just wave at me when the 5th minute is there. Like, don't, because if you talk my word, yeah, thank you. Okay, so my speech starts in 3, 2, 1. So here's the thing. We all know that humans are inherently selfish. That means they're only going to look at their interests, okay? So how do we actually mitigate this? People found a way to mitigate this by forming a government. That's a social contract. The government allows us to regulate our rights and our dignities, and then also sometimes we infringe on other people's rights for the greater good. That means that even if we are going to infringe on your rights a bit, as much as you're uncomfortable a bit, you're going to get schools, you're going to get roads, and so everyone is going to be happy. We are all going to sing Kumbaya at the end of the day. That's what's happening here. When we have to understand that no one is arguing over collaboration. We're all going to collaborate one way or another. Our difference is the government has a higher social mandate to everyone, plus the local communities. They have a higher obligation to everyone, and so for that reason, they are given more power to become a regulatory body. What do I mean by this? We can't give the private investors a regulatory body because they are after profits. We already know that. And as much as you want to say the community-led people, they only think about that small community. They don't think about like for example, in my country, Kenya, they don't think about the 47 counties of Kenya. They'll only think about that one county. And that's a problem because we actually need to save all these other points. The problem with the proposition side of the world is the fact that there's this thing about corruption, deadlock, and everything. They're still going to get to those points, but it's not going to be mitigated. You're not solving the real problem. The real problem is that we have weak institutions. The real problem is the fact that people are still going to govern their interests. At least in our side of the world, even if people are corrupt, we're still going to get the resources and actually help everyone, the whole nation, and the local communities are part of the nation. And so for that reason, you can't come here and tell us the fact that, that's one. Two, let's talk about efficiency, which is something they don't tackle in their side of the world. In their side of the world, they are creating more avenues for corruption, more avenues for people to be self-important and everything. As much as they want to come here and say that the local communities will actually be held, the local communities will actually protect people's interests. Here's the thing, those local communities have political hierarchies that will always work on the higher persons in favor. So there's still going to be this broken telephone you're talking about. There's still going to be a problem. The only difference is the fact that in their side of the world, it's much slower. In our side of the world, even with these deadlocks and everything, we're still ensured of faster development, which is going to help the human dignity of everyone. Look, here we're talking about social justice, and in social justice, we have to create in our side of the world, we are creating employment, we are creating education, we are empowering people because we are giving people schools, we are giving people hospitals, we are making people live in a dignified life, a human dignity kind of life. And when you come to talk about accountability, which is a very strong point everyone is talking about, here's the thing, the judiciary is part of the government, and the judiciary is a very independent body, especially with the transformative constitutionalism, which we are seeing across Africa, that's in Kenya and South Africa. The judiciary is actually known as a big brother between the legislature and everyone. Meaning if these local communities feel like they're wrong, if these local communities feel like the leaders are corrupting, we don't even have to wait for those 5 years you're talking about. No, they can actually go to court and actually gain the accountability metric we're talking about. So we win in both metric, we win in efficiency, and we still have democracy because we still win in the legitimization and democracy. Why is this? It's because these communities still have leaders representing them in government. These communities are still a swing vote when they are looking for the executive and everything. And so for that reason, these people are still going to be represented, and their voices are still going to be heard. And when you come here and say, oh, there's corruption and everything, here's the thing, no matter any person you nominate, because we've already shown you, we've already considered to the fact that humans are inherently selfish, no matter any person you nominate on your side of the world, you still run the same risks. The difference between our side of the world and your side of the world is that us, we do not mash these things into. We don't come here and tell you at oh, they won't be. You guys are making it look like now that we are choosing local leaders, these local leaders will just decide to be good people and sing kumbaya and there won't be corruption. That's weird. That's extremely weird. If corruption corruption is still going to exist. It's just that in your side of the world, you're creating more roadblocks for people to be bribed. In your side of the world, you're actually ensuring people will actually lose money. Private investors will lose more money because they now have to bribe the government official, they'll have to bribe the local investor, and they still have to bribe all these other people. It doesn't make sense, at least in our side of the world, even if you're not only bribing, you're taking precious development time because you are inefficient as it is. In our side of the world, we agree that we have efficiency, we have legitimization, and we still, yeah. Here.
No, it's okay. It's fine. Just looking at
Okay, so maybe to make it clear, you know that each round is 6 minutes, and you're given 15 seconds to wind up, and more than that, you need considering it. For the cross examination, it's 4 minutes. Okay? What? No, not 15 minutes. Yeah, because in cross examination, you can control the questioning and the answering. You know, it's a dialogue between you two. But the 6 minutes is the way you're flowing up. So maybe you're finalizing your point. Maybe you're trying to pinpoint something so that you just take it. And I'm going to confirm about the issue about answering the answers here. But what I understand, there is a meaning of why the presenter should stay at the front, like that way, present your facts and everything. I'm going to confirm that this I understand. But that's how it is. You sit there, and the opposite team gives you the questions. I mean, you get to be asked questions basing on what you're presenting. If you need help, you're going to intentionally ask your team. And they better give you, more facts on that you want to present. Because that's how you're going to end next one. You're good? So this was a good round. Thank you. Give us a few minutes and we'll call you back in.
like you should also tell that to like the different judges.
Okay.
So like the fact that they were able to go into 2 rooms and then in both like those 2 minutes.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, I need you guys to tell me what room numbers were. It will be easy for me to deliver that message. That's okay? The room numbers were in before this one, when you come back. So it will be easy for me to talk to those judges and tell them the same thing. Because I didn't do it there. Okay, when you come back, yeah. Cool. Thank you. So just like 5 minutes or so. How do you feel?
And how I observed, the first speaker on the negative side was Natalia. Chantel.
Yeah,
Chantel.
this office.
Yeah. Chantel, I think she's from 98.
Eh?
98.
Why 98?
The average.
Why 98?
both sides. Oh, thank you. Okay, so I said ninaenda kuanza with general comments to specific comments. Kuna vitu ambavyo nimeviona from both sides. Upande huu naomba to work on zaidi with how we present our evidence. Anzal, you're good, umepresent vizuri, but we couldn't see a clear connection huko mbeleni with the facts, I mean with your arguments, okay? You don't have to slap somebody with evidence usona funachana naye. You two, you gave us, okay, you also gave us evidence, lakini it was just one. Please work on that. That's a general comment, okay? This side, you also gave us, I mean, you gave most of all, you also did well, lakini work on them, how to connect with your arguments and facts, okay? Msimwachie mtu akahang nayo. Kuna mtu alikuwa anaongea pointer deforestation, ni nani? Deforestation, about cutting down the trees kwa ajili ya a certain project. Oh, I don't know. So there's somehow mlikuwa mnaongelea pointer deforestation alafu mtakaiacha hanging, you know? Yes. And this side, on your timing pia mfanye nani. So, tumewapa very big scores. I hope so. But mmefanya vizuri, marekebisho tuliowapa na mmefanya kazi. So, from both sides, kuna vitu kwa tuna expect kama nyie mtakavyoongelea how one actor anaenda ku benefit from all, na nyie kama corruption neza ika work from both sides, au how does the three can work. Kwa sababu tunajua power balance haiwezi kukaa pamoja. Si ndio? Okay. So, what we see, talking about national interest au selfishness peke yake, still has to, lazima uongezee more weight. Ukisema national interest, it's a very big national cake. Lazima ugusia. Hata kama nyewe pia mgiongelea national interest, mgegusia. Inagusa wapi, inafanya nini, what's the effect, inakuja kusaidia nini huko mbeleni. Ukiongea pia selfishness, lazima utaje, inabidi itakufanya nini, inazuia nini, what does it get. We all know corruption, it's a double-edged sword. Unaweza ukagain from it au unaweza ukalose from it. If you guys mlikuwa mnatumia corruption as the way of kwamba tutaki I mean, we don't want to live with corruption. We are good with the decisions we make and how we are dealing with one actor kwenye society. You can use that, lakini find a better way to present that to the people. If you guys mlikuwa mnasema no, tunafikiri mkiwa watu watatu mtabalance power yenu vizuri, yani ile like wanaita check and balance, lakini pia tuka control the what na yeye ulisema hapa inasema, let me go back to, okay, mko mnavyoongelea kama it's either a legitimate development or imposed development, you need to see how you deliver it further forward. Yani kwamba if you are going for legitimate development, means hamtaki kusikia mambo ya corruption kabisa. So you need a better way to present that. You're getting me? Going back to you. So, you have something else to add? No. Yeah. Maybe, so that provides us to an end kwamba we got more what we got from this side more than this side. Because this side won. I don't know, you have questions for me? Was I clear or what? Mbona mmebaki mko stranded. Do you guys have questions for me? Just a second. Hi. What did you guys know? How do you guys think? How is the round? Nahisi shida ilikuwa ni nini? Because one thing I noticed, this guy amekuja, okay, you did very well. You saw well, hukuweza kuconnect from what you said from your friend. Yani anapoongea first speaker, na yale maswali yaliyoingizwa kwenye nanili nini ile the 4 minutes, you're supposed to pick it up, uendelee uongeze more arguments ili huyu akija kupick up na finalize inakuwa make a good argument. So there was no connection between you two. You did a great job. Uliamua to pick up the points of the two, ukaamua kuzifinalize. Now you need to work on how you present your evidence. Yes, I mean, ulikuwa na very good stance za arguments. Unaelezea kwamba this should be, kwa mfano, kwa mfano ulikuwa
Umeanza kuelezea how you're going to benefit the national interest, decision making inavyoingia, a collective community, and how can government share that selfish interest kwa ajili ya their own benefit. You are trying to connect with what these two say. By the way, a good framing on how you started, lakini he ended well kwa sababu I don't know if you saw that, but that's what I need to work as a team. You need how to collect your ideas. Or maybe if you're having 5 arguments, wanaweza kaongea mbili, I don't know how you do it, but he can connect and conclude everything. Okay? Yeah. So I don't know if it's nyie mnakavona, lakini pia nyie kumbukeni mkiwa upande wa affirmative, you have a very big weight ya proving how all those three can work together. You have na kazi kubwa pia kuongelea how corruption can be either good or bad. Lakini anyways, lazima nyie mkatae corruption. So be mindful of what you're going to kutetea pale mbele. Okay? You have any other questions? Kingine jitahidi unacheza kwenye balance ya 6 minutes. It's okay, you might have finished everything early, lakini unaweza kama pick up on something your friend alichosema, au kama kuna swali pia alikuwa striking, ushindwe kulijibu on time. Use that time to defend your friend. And una use kwamba it's not unaonyesha kama una defend, ni kwamba unatetea kama point unaitetea, like yeah, this should be kwamba itakiwa hivi kwa hata mnamuuliza my first colleague itakiwa ajibu hivi na hivi na hivi na hivi na hivi na hivi. Okay, that's why nimesogea karibu. I didn't want it to be an
so we can finish also before the sun goes down. Can I get the names of wengine? In short, wote
hapa mmoja
nataka like 2 names au basi nitauliza yeye.
Okay, I think from that side you can take Aya, she's good, and Chantal.
Okay.
You want 2 names from each side or two names in total?
2 names in total. One from the side.
Kuchukua Aya, kuchukua Kio. Ayak. No, this guy. No, I'm not Kio. Ayak ni yule mshakwenda katikati.
Na huku
kule ni Ayak ni Akio.
spellings
Akio, AKYO.
okay. So their sides
Sides. Akio ni pro. Ni drop na op ni op.
Si unaongelea huko? Yaani basi utumini kwa nini unauliza unataka waya wa USB-C? Nikamwambia mimi ninao hapa natumia. Hamna shida. Mimi nikajua wewe ndo unahitaji ni kuazime. Yeah. Ya moto. Vijana wa sekondari na dogo moja. nimechagua naomba ni state only ambayo ina benefit zote, kitu ambacho
and one should show the evidence. I benefit.
I benefit. Oh, nadhani wamefanya kwa tu general kiasi kwamba anataka ni rafiki yako.
Nikuambia jina lako umesahau.
Sasa sawa, unaita nani? Elfrida. Nikajua kama jina la mdogo wangu. Huyu ni Frida na mdogo wangu ni Frida. Elfrida. Babako ni Mturuki? Kama Pega sasa.
So dead. How are you guys doing? Oh. How are you guys doing? Hey, guys. Energy is so drained. Just a couple of announcements. So we're gonna be tomorrow, as you guys all know, our venue is gonna be the East African community, right? So just a couple of guidelines. Of course, I shared this on the group, but I'm gonna say this in the inevitability that we have people who are not or don't have access to the group. First of all, kindly wear formal. Yes. Yeah, at the African court, we had our lessons, right? So can we please wear formal when you go to the EAC, right? The EAC do recommend that we enter with formal wear. What is formal wear, right? Some of you might ask. Go Google, right? Go Google what formal wear is. But it's not necessarily have to be like a tie and everything, but if you, like at the minimum, if you could wear a shirt and maybe like pants. No, I'm not formal. If like a shirt, pants, like formal shoes, and I don't know what formal looks like for women, but you guys will definitely figure that out. Yeah, so formal wear is very important. Second of all, and this was stressed to me by the EAC, two things. First of all, do not break anything. Second of all, after you're done using the classrooms, if there are papers that you've thrown out, anything, always leave the classrooms or the venues clean. If in fact the EAC comes, there are things that we've broken, or there are things that, or like we just leave the room in a messy situation, we will not be given the venue again. Like they literally said that in very, 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 yeah, they expressed it very, very carefully. So please keep that carefully. Bring your ID, all right? All of your names have been submitted to the security. However, bring your ID, okay? I think we all know what an ID is, so I'm not going to talk about that. Fourthly, be on time, right? Those of you guys who are staying at the accommodation, big ups to you guys. You guys were early, right? So big ups to you guys for that, right? And I think Nakito was also one of the very first schools to arrive. So big ups to you guys today. We have Lent. So let's keep the same spirit tomorrow and be on time. Normally, given the fact that tomorrow we have the awarding ceremony, right, and the closing ceremony, that means we also need to start very, very much on time, all right? Yes. What time is that? Around, we should be there by 8. Yeah. But the buses will leave earlier before that. So we'll share that communication with you guys. Yeah. Any questions? Oh, for those of you who are using your own transportation, you enter the Museveni gate. All right? You enter the Museveni gate. Yeah. Don't use any other gate, or else they won't let you in. So you enter the Museveni gate. Any questions? No questions? Great. All right. Yeah, so we're going to be announcing round 4 in a few, and then, yeah, then we're done. I don't know, let me ask. I don't think it is.
Great, we're all ready. Congratulations to everybody for making it to round 4.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much. The draw is released on the tab, so if you have the link, please check it out. Otherwise, judges, same deal, stay in the room. We will pass out the ballot as we go down. You should be the other side, so whatever side you've left to be should be the side. We're pretty confident that that's correct.
But if it's
not
incorrect,
holler at us.
come holler.
We can probably fix it. In LR1, UDSM, Frederick Douglass versus Lily. LR1. LR10, Nikito Alpha Squads versus Nikito Game Changers. LR10. LR11, IAA Henry Benjamin Princess Ibrahim versus UDSM Ally Benai and Yusuf. LR12, that's going to be Merrick against UDSM Goda, Isaac, and Festo. LR13, Nikito Peaky Blinders, you have a bye this round. LR2 is going to be Morehouse against Strathmore Powerpuff Girls. LR13 is USIS Makandi Rabasa and Nikito the Crossfire Queens. LR4 is Nikito the Silent Destroyers against Strathmore Persuasive Pioneers. LR5, Strathmore SDS Trickle 8 against Strathmore Beauty and the Beast. LR6, USIS Bad Boys against Nikito Fox Panthers. LR7, Nikito Void Storm Hunters against KCMC. LR8, Tharaka Winner Takes All versus Serena's team. And LR9, Nikito, the Argument Avengers against IAA, Mawaka, Yusuf. We have the tab up. Debaters, please go to your rooms.
Who are we up against?
8.
Who are we up against?
Let's go,
8.
team! You got this!
We have, I think. Refresh it.
I can see.
Refresh it.
Otherwise, just come up here.
Yeah, we'll work on it. We're working on it, Renson. Come on. We'll work on it. It's also here. It's also here. Take a look. Have a great debate. No. No, I want you there.
I just thought you didn't want to.
Judges, stay put.
Judges, stay. Here, look on this. I need to use my computer. So look
on this one. Yeah. We'll have to check a bunch of those judges.
What is UDism?
That's UDism with my school, University of Vermont. So it's just one debater. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Great question. You're gonna be dumb. You're not. You stay. You stay. Judges aren't gone yet.
Yeah, is this you guys?
Will you come tell me that you judge?
Oh, I'm done.
Yes.
Oh, it's you guys.
But don't go yet.
Oh, very bonita.
We're changing it.
You have a point for corruption.
Who do you want to judge? You just tell me who you want to judge, and I'll put
Here's
you.
some new face situations, separated.
What you just faced?
Stand.
That's very common.
How do you guys normally have a...
You validate their feelings. At least this is what I do. I validate, oh man, that is hard. Wow, I'm so sorry. This is hard. This is tough. What would you like to do moving forward? We can't change the result. The result is the result. Sometimes judges see around differently, and we may disagree, and that's also something to unpack and reflect later. If you want to communicate, we can arrange a conversation with the judge. Maybe they can more explain. You can talk, depending on how serious, right, it is. To me, the 6-minute thing didn't sound serious, right? I don't know about the other thing. Yes. But yeah, you just sort of listen and validate. Sometimes they just need to be heard. The other thing, too, we tell them is you have to reflect. It's been too soon after. You're feeling all the emotions. Tell me tomorrow if we still have a problem. You know what I mean? No, I'm serious. Nicer than that, but it is like, wow, we use that energy. Round 4, go in.
Use that energy for round 4?
Yeah. But it is sometimes people just want to be heard and want to complain, so you have to sort of let them. Do you see where you are? Judges, I'm getting to you. Yes?
I don't.
May I help? I'd love to help. What do you need to know?
I'll figure out where to put Diana. Where's the standings? Okay, so the standings are...
Who's judging?
Frederick Douglass and Strathmore, Okay, so...
Let's go to your room. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in LR2.
I want to put you...
Give me a minute then.
This is a lot of UDSM. Are you okay?
Are you okay judging them? You don't know them? She doesn't know them. It's Caleb and Takia. Great.
And then
Do I need to check if people have seen people, or are we good?
You think Marianne, you just...
Yep, I got it.
Nikito, Argument Avengers, and IAA.
She's seen the Argument Avengers on the negative.
Okay.
She's seen
Has she seen IAA?
She's not seen IAA at all.
Okay, that's fine. All right, we're good now.
Okay.
I need to then go back to generate.
Great. Let me just
Display draw, right?
Yeah, and Diana's in the. Yep, it works. I got it.
Release the set.
It says it's released. Alrighty. Hey, debaters, go out of my way. I'm talking to the judges. Go off to the side. You'll get your moment. Okay, judges. Our dream, our goal is that you're not seeing the same team in the same position, okay? You might see the same team, but hopefully they're on the affirmative and or the negative, okay? That's the dream. I think it's a reality. Tell me, yo? Is this a silent round? This is not, great question. No, this is not a silent round. Please give feedback to your teams. I know we're at the end of the day, so it's okay to be efficient, but they should get feedback as to what's happening. If you've got to go, give them your WhatsApp, give them a call later. But yes.
Just like one piece of advice.
But something.
It doesn't have to be a full thing.
But it can be a full thing.
Something that they
as long as you have time. It could, yeah. So okay. In LR1 is going to be chaired by Diana along with Faith. In LR10, can I stop saying the LR? They're all LR. In 10, which is over there, Eric, you're going to chair. Where'd Eric go?
Eric.
You're going to chair. Come grab your ballot along with Andrew. Andrew also from Strathmore. You guys judging together. You're in 10. It's over there. If you need to find it, Diana can tell you where it is.
Congratulations for being promoted to chair.
Yay, Eric. In 11 is going to be Esther along with Stephen. Esther, you're chairing. Fantastic. Thank you, Esther. Where? Eric. 10, it's over there.
Okay.
There and there. Go with Andrew. Alrighty. In 12. Armin, we're trusting you by yourself. Possibly again. 12. That's the outside one. You know that? 12 is the outside one. Wycliffe, you're in 2. Along with Alicia. Yes. You were doing so. I should have promoted you too. You were thinking great in that last round.
We're asking for the Nakido game changes in each room.
Hey, I don't mean to mess
In negative, in 10.
Okay.
It's that room over there.
I don't mean to mess with your allocation, but the judge that you assigned in here just judged Morehouse the previous round.
But on different sides, yes?
Different sides,
Yeah.
yes, but I don't think they've been judged by Diana or Faith, and they just went to the other one.
Faith was asked not to chair. That's why we don't have Faith chairing. She asked to judge with Diana.
I'm just saying, neither one of them. I didn't know who was chairing.
I mean, the judge who's judging Morehouse just judged Morehouse. Wycliffe judged them apparently, so they're wanting to see.
Okay.
Should we swap with Diana?
Sure.
Yeah.
But Faith.
Just swap them both, I guess?
I guess, yes. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll go tell her.
Great. All right, Wycliffe and Alicia, you're going to actually we're going to move you to L10, okay? L10. 10 over there. If you've judged the people before, let me know, okay? I don't think you've seen... Go. Where'd he go? Oh. Well, you'll find him. We'll find him. We'll keep go. I'll find him. His room was here. It's fascinating. Okay. In 3 is going to be Moses. Where'd Moses go? By yourself, okay? All you. All the time. Fantastic. In 4, Trevor, you're going to chair along with Sharon.
Who do you have in L1?
I have, oh, wait, I got it wrong. I said the wrong thing.
Where did you send? Who did you send to L?
I sent them to 10. Eric.
Eric.
Eric should stay in 10.
Okay.
So we should find Wycliffe. Can you go to 10 and find Wycliffe and send Wycliffe to 1? Along with Alicia. Who did I just call? Trevor, Dom, Eben, you're in 5.
Trevor, is that?
Trevor, you're in 4.
All right, thank you.
Dom, Eben, you're in 5 with Ellie Faith. Where are you? You're here with Eben. You keep him straight. Charlie Rose, 6. You got it, awesome. Just you. Micah, you're gonna be in 7. Where's Micah?
I don't want Faith to judge Morehouse because I think that.
Then let's put her somewhere else. Just, yeah, I agree. But she's here.
Faith, I need you to switch.
Do you want to go with, or just go with Micah?
Is it okay if you don't?
You're gonna go in 7.
What about me? It's 2.
You are gonna go. Where do we put Wycliffe? Oh, this is the other judge. Why don't you stay here? You're gonna stay here. You're gonna be right here.
Who's my panelist?
You're gonna go just back to your.
With
I'm sorry.
you're gonna go with that's your panelist right there. Faith is your panelist. Go.
Sorry, elephant with Eben, which room?
5. You're here.
With
Here. No, you're gonna be with Diana. Yes, we're switching some stuff. Don't worry about it. 8. Deliet and Asante. Have I put you in 8 like 3 rooms in a row? Yes. That's my bad. Sorry, he frazzled me doing it on the spot.
That's very unprofessional.
I said my qualifiers. You're good. You're good. You're good. You're good. 8 again, because you have to. And Marianne and Simon, but Marianne, you're the chair in 9. Best for last. Yes.
That's okay.
We have some 1 judges.
They are.
I judged these guys last round. They went up. And then up here as well.
When? The last round? No, you didn't.
For the last round, sorry, I remember that was like the second round where we met, and then for the third round, we met.
Here you go.
Oh, we were
Esther has apparently seen this team 3 times.
Esther, which team?
How is that possible? We like went through.
I really checked. Which team is it?
So many times.
Udism. Which one?
The Udism team?
You've seen them 3 times.
This will be the 3rd time.
Okay, oh, I don't want you to see them 3 times. Why don't I just go judge them?
And then why don't you stay in this room?
Yeah, you stay here.
And you'll judge on a panel with Diana.
Wait, and Diana, so have you seen these people?
Yeah.
Wait, I'm confused.
I've seen them.
You've seen this draft
On this side?
On this side?
To confirm. No.
On neg?
So we could just switch rooms with her.
I think you could switch rooms with Diana, maybe. That would work.
Thank you for telling us, Esther.
Yes.
But you're a good judge. Yeah, why don't we have Esther judge in here?
Yes,
Esther,
can judge in
you
here,
and you go to
Diana
Esther's
can go.
room. You go to 11.
Let's come look and see though.
Go look at 11. It's right,
11.
11's
Have you
really
watched
closed.
Have you seen both of these teams on these sides?
No, I don't know Udism.
Here, let's go look at them. Esther, Greg, get your stuff. You're gonna come in here because you've been seeing these teams, right? Have you seen Morehouse?
I haven't
Any of
seen
you
any
seen?
of them.
Great.
You don't even know, huh?
I don't know. They walked away.
Is there a debate that you want us? How about you go to this room? No. How about with
Or being
Moses
here.
or Armand? No, because they already have 2 judges. There's 2 rooms that only have 1 judge.
What about
How about
Charlie?
you go to L3 or L6?
Yeah, go to L6.
L6.
Okay.
Where is it located?
It's upstairs and I forget.
Why don't you go to L3 because it's on this one? And it's
Yes,
just
go to
right
L3.
here to the left.
Thank you.
Okay.
So Esther, you're going to be judging with Alicia. Am I saying your name correctly? Okay. Great. Good luck. I'm going to take these because I want these for tomorrow.
Yes, definitely.
They're mine now. I'm the captain now. So Esther, you know the drill. Get started whenever everybody's ready, okay?
Are you still embarrassed or have any of you by any chance taken the
Oh, for sure. So here's the thing. If we actually update, it's going to take an hour max. It's still a joke where it's still open. We keep we're not.
to write our names on the ballot. Yeah, oh, my bad. Oh, we'll probably keep going. You want to say? I'm sorry. That's fine.
In this room, everybody sits there plus the cameras are positioned in a certain place.
Oh, we gotta spread this out.
Oh, we have to use mics. Yes, we could basically get mic'd up. I don't think I need. No. I project. I don't need it.
He's literally
Just fucking put it on. Shit. Put it down until we extract it. You can literally just put it over time. Like.
So you guys are gonna have to share that mic based on.
You have to use the mic. It's not an option.
So it's on Josh right now.
Is it mandated?
Captures the audio better. Your audio won't.
Sure.
Your audio won't be as good. So you know what? You don't have to hold it in your hand. Just clip it to your die.
No, I know, but like use it for your I'm not using it right now.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'll use it. Yeah, sure.
Literally, put it in your hand. That's what I did.
Just put it away.
She has the ballot. This is a bit tight, though. We should
I think we're affirmative for this one, right? You guys wrote your names under affirmative.
Oh, new ballot.
What?
Yeah.
No, it's fine. Okay, Josh.
No.
Just X out the name.
No, actually, like, new ballot.
So like
Yeah, sure.
Technically, you guys should be sitting over there.
Just write your name. We'll switch. Just write, and then he's getting another ballot.
Just kidding. Oh, I do that one.
Instead of telling you to write your name.
I feel like we could just like use the ballot. You should really just use the ballot.
No, there's more categories than we have. The ballot's more complicated than we should.
It's like this, and then whoever ends up winning, it could be switched up. It's just.
No, he's gonna leave it.
No, like I'm rewriting it. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Wait, no, just write this. Yeah. Yeah.
Just have to say.
Is this on? Yeah, I don't know if it's on. Are you still Metro PCS? Josh, give the pen back. Josh. Always.
Make sure you just say it before speech.
Of course, I'll just name drop it, but like, I'm not gonna. Oh wait. Oh, were you guys trying to tell me yesterday that I didn't get to this last one? Is that what you were saying? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, just like Haki says it. I mean, I can mention it very last and just be like, oh yeah. I'll read this out. I'll read this out and like mention it. Yeah. Are we Yeah.
Hi. So when you're ready, we can begin. I hope this is audible now.
Yeah, it is. Do you want me to keep time or?
Well, you can keep. I don't mind. But yeah, still. Okay. So there will be a bell in the first 15, 16. But
Okay.
for the cross exam, they'll just be the last bell. There will not be any.
I'm not gonna lie, low key. Josh, can I borrow your phone? My phone's at 1. I just need the timer.
Okay, if everybody's ready, I'll begin my speech in my next word. On May 1st, 2018, a three-judge bench, just like yourselves, sitting in the coastal town of Malindi, Kenya, ordered the Kenyan government to pay $170 million in compensation to a group of roughly 4,600 fishermen. These men and their families had been displaced from Manda Bay in Lamu County, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, to make way for a modern deep water port under the Lamu Port and South Sudan Ethiopia Transport Corridor, also known as LAPSET. They were not opposed to development. They asked only that the development include them. The court found that it did not. Nala Combe, writing in the Journal of Eastern African Studies, documented that fisherman's case was not one of resistance to project itself, but of attempting to secure a greater share of project's activities, to direct in ways that would include local interests. The Kenyan government appealed the ruling. The fishermen remained displaced. That is the world we are describing today. A world in which development happens to people rather than with them. For the sake of the populace, African states should change this. This is exactly why we affirm. The core principle facing many African economies are not the lack of natural resources, but rather the inefficient production and allocation of said resources. Weak institutions, corruption, political instability, and poor local integration prevent extractive industries from translating resources into wealth into broad-based development. Under our model, the major project decisions regarding land acquisition, resettlement, environmental management, and revenue sharing require approval from all three parties, being both the private, public, and community sectors, with the community sector having a mandate of 50% women. We'll get into why that's important in my partner's speech. But for now, I'll move on to my contentions. I have three. The first you can tag as more development. Here's my claim. When communities are denied inclusion in decision-making for major development projects, they retaliate. States do not get faster growth, they get litigation, they get delays, they get sabotage, and you see political instability. Why does this matter, and what is my warrant for this? One of the largest barriers to economic development is community backlash, as we've seen time and time again within the region. When communities have no meaningful mechanism to influence decisions affecting their land and livelihoods, they often resort to the only recourse they have: protests, litigation, blockades, and political resistance. The LAPSAT corridor is a perfect example of this dynamic. Communities in Lamu did not oppose development itself, they demanded participation in shaping it. Instead, inclusion generated years of legal battles, displacement claims, and ultimately a Kenyan court order requiring approximately 170 million USD in compensation after defaulting on the project. No development, more debt, it's worse for everyone. So what is the impact? The negative may argue that co-governance creates delays because more actors may be consulted. However, we argue the opposite because projects without community buy-in face far greater delays through litigation and other means. Now onto my second contention. Money stays in Africa. Co-governance transforms extractive industries from enclave economies into engines of local development, and the evidence proves it works. Traditional extractive arrangements are dominated by governments and multinational corporations. Resources are ripped from the earth beneath communities' feet, while profits, expertise, and economic activity flow outward to shareholder meetings in, say, London, the UK, China, and Beijing, and communities are left with the crater. They are left with all the debt that comes because none of the money circulated through their communities. What do we get when we experience this co-governance model? I'll tell you, we get a couple things: local hiring requirements, local procurement commitments, skill training programs, domestic processing facilities, and revenue sharing agreements that actually reach the people. If you think I'm just lecturing, let me give you an actual case study of where this worked. A peer-reviewed study published by the National Institute of Health examined two major mining projects in northern Canada, MacArthur River and Diavaric, specifically to understand what governance arrangements led to successful outcomes for communities. The findings were stark. In both projects, the governments took a less prominent role in resource management, allowing indigenous communities to hold a stronger role in governance. Both communities built formal partnerships with mining companies around socioeconomic benefits and environmental monitoring. These results were not marginal, they were structural. At Diavec, the socioeconomic monitoring agreement, negotiated because communities had governance and authority, not just consultation rights as they do in the SQO, locked in a binding local hiring commitment. And as of 2022, Diavec has spent $7.1 billion with northern businesses, of which 3.6 was directly given to the indigenous people. So what we're seeing is when you opt into this co-governance model, the money not only goes back to the community at large, to the development, but also to the individuals who need it the most. Again, 3.6 billion going back directly to the same people who are getting this project off the ground, who are getting more jobs, getting better outcomes out of it. At McArthur River Mine, a tripartite community benefit trust structured as a formal partnership between the mining company, the Northern Territory government, and the local community has invested over $22 million into 170 programs across health, education, job recreation, arts, culture, and environment protections that we need. This creates economic diversification, the only route of the resource curse. Instead of functioning as a narrow pipeline government, revenue that can be siphoned by elites, co-governance makes extraction a catalyst for broader productivity. Local workers are more trained, we have individuals making their own sustainable income, and we see it directly contributing to more developmental projects while maintaining the safeguards for these individuals because we're putting them on boards, we're giving them rights to vote, we're giving them rights to influence what really matters. Now onto my third and final contention as I wrap up, sustainability. This happens through two ways: decreased corruption and increased investors. Co-governance creates a third layer of oversight that makes corrupt resources deal significantly more difficult. For example, now instead of having a PPP model, we have a PPCP model where this C, the community, has a hand on the government, has a hand on these private equity investors, and makes sure that their money is not just going to exploit the land that they live on, the land that they have to profit from, considering how integral agriculture is. Recognizing that we're giving these individuals this freedom is not only good for the development of the community, but also the people at large. And for those reasons, we uphold this developmental justice that we want to seek, and I'm so proud to propose. Ready for cross.
I would like to start by asking you, in what capacity does a community affect a community which basically has little to no financial resources and political power to influence a government into succeeding to whatever demands that the community has?
Well, so I do agree that in your world, they have no political influence. However, we're deviating from what exists currently. We're giving them a seat on a board. We look at this as like a thirds voting right share with private interests, then we see public, and now we have the community. So now they actually do have the influence to make changes that they want to see.
On that note, I would then stress, in what capacity would this organization, this co-governance, be able to act concussively given the fact that there are competing interests within the status quo, and who gets the formal authority on exactly what should be done, and how generally does the co-governance work in general, the model upon which it's built?
Yeah. So I kind of like briefly outlined this, but I say it's a PPCP, which essentially is just public-private community partnership. What does that look like? Now we say we have a board, say board from the investment group for the private. We have a board or elected officials like from the public government. Then we also have these individuals who are now holding them accountable with the community, amongst the community of those appointed members, say whatever the official voting status is, like now say like ranked choice voting for those specific officials. Now you have like a third, and a third here. Obviously, you have to, those individuals have voting power. You can't just make decisions without their input. It's simple.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you.
Could you help us? Bro, I came to see Tanzania. Don't stress me. Is it better if I go to bed? It won't fall?
Hopefully.
I don't want to break these fancy things, yeah. Accountability, stretch the case study, this is rebuttals, and then, okay, I will begin my speech in 3, 2, and 1. Panel, the first thing that I would like to stress is that for this particular motion, opposition side actually acknowledges the problems that are existing within the underlying status quo, and thus we offer an alternative that's actually been working, governmental restructure. How does this work? We acknowledge the power of communities in order to make their own decisions over resources. However, in order for them to get those legitimate concerns that they may have, before to the government, the issue the issue lies within restructuring how government itself works. For example, we usually have MPs, and MPs have proven to be rather quite ineffective in dealing with this particular problem. And thus the best way to tackle it is to form a specific criteria for MP selection. This would include how many benefits that the society has actually gotten from the land or resources that it actually has, the social structure or justice that's been delivered, and the promises, and the total development and respect that those particular communities have gotten from their respected MPs. Should this not be respected, voters can simply not vote, because ultimately you realize that when you don't actually go out to vote, these governments get terrified because they now realize that we do not have the legitimacy, because with no votes, you have no legitimacy. And thus MPs are more likely to concede because they want to hold their seat. So we're trying to create a way in which government is more accountable. So how do we do this? We're not saying that communities should not be able to contribute. No, in fact, they should be at the table. However, their effect within government actually lies in working with government, not against it, because proposition side frames it as if it's a government versus people issue, but it leaves another party who they really haven't considered, which is the private investor, who, to be honest, can lobby each of these individuals alone. So ultimately, you want to factor in exactly what kind of situation that government and, of course, the community can work together to do this. So how is it that we're going to be going about this issue? The first line we'd like to address, is accountability. Because we see that in Botswana, the government actually has MPs that work based on that are elected based on the social services that they provide. And there is a greater separation of power between the state and its legislative bodies, between the judiciary, legislation itself. So ultimately you find out that the judiciary still has the significant power to force the government to concede to communities' demands in terms that, again, mind you, we're talking about threats that are existential to the said community. So not every situation needs to go through government channel. It simply needs to go through government channels, because that's simply just going to create a lot of red tape. I believe some of these issues can be dealt with at the lower level, right? So what accountability measures are we going to be putting in place? You're talking about seizure of assets. Burkina Faso has actually implemented this. This is in a way to deal with the private investors who might not who might not respect the laws of that particular community. For example, if they don't want any toxic dumping, you can seize those properties, and that makes these individuals more likely to concede to community demands, as well as impeachment and trial and punishment. I know that this is a very complex thing, but again, it has worked in Botswana, because ultimately they use what we call public defamation by throwing out the transparency of how many votes someone actually won and what actual social incentives have been delivered, and that is actually very transparent and public. And ultimately, because of the public defamation, the individual in power is forced to concede authority. And you also have to guarantee, in our side of the house, government is actually going to be guaranteeing social services for people before they even come to their land. They must enter into a legally binding agreement with said community and grant them specific legally mandated benefits that they want. For example, there's going to be training, obviously, and naturally training in order to improve their skills so that they can undertake in any of the jobs that the project is going to be giving, as well as ensuring that contracts are only contracts, if breached by the government, it will have to pay compensation. And we also have channels in order to mitigate differences between the government and the community through independent bodies, which can ultimately come to an agreement of what should be, which party should concede what and exactly how much. So you're talking about compensation. If it's the removal of a specific people from a location that they want to build a dam, you're going to be implementing what? Compensation for land. But the government needs to make sure that they already have the land and the buildings intact, just to make sure that it is foreseeable. Now, the issue that I get from side proposition is that the case study that they mentioned actually proves that it's not necessarily that government cannot do this, but rather the structural weaknesses of said government. And that's the original plan, rather the best plan forward, is to actually prove that communities and governments can work together, because ultimately what they're arguing for is a government versus people situation. And ultimately you have to concede that even within your core governance, you still need that said government in order to actually do anything, because investors cannot simply come into a country without the permission from the government. And if the government feels like there's a tag team between the private investors and the communities, they're more likely to retaliate, and you don't have mechanisms of even proving that the elites and even proving that the elites that you might, elect from your communities might actually be bought by these private investors. We have so much lobbying within the status quo. So you have to come up with an independent, for example, the situation that Botswana and Singapore use, an independent government arm that's capable of acquiring transparency, for example, how much money is going into a specific project, who is giving that said money, and exactly the terms of the contract, and if breached, what are the punishments that you're going to be enforcing. So ultimately, you're talking about social justice, and what we're saying is that communities should definitely have a stake within whatever project that the government and the private investor, in your case, would want. But how do we do that? They have to make sure that they mandate before they go into an agreement that they're going to tell you that, you know what, we're going to provide education for you, we're going to provide compensation for you, and anything that you might need in the general aspect of this motion. Thank you. Forgive me for my poor vocabulary. Yes. But oh my goodness, I completely forgot. Yes. Shoot.
I guess I'll begin now. So my first question is, do you believe that like the entirety, and when I say entirety, I mean all, even the majority of individuals are like corrupt like within these governments? So like that's
everyone is corrupt.
So you can account for the corruption of every
Yes,
single individual in the government.
We can, and it's been proven.
Okay. Sure. So let's even if we bought this line of argumentation, like, and we walk with this, right? Are you saying that every individual is just like, is never going to like want to uphold any governmental system? I'm sorry.
People are different.
So let me rephrase.
Yes.
Your main critique of our case is that government and people are working in opposition to one another, despite us trying to uphold co-governance. I'm saying, are you maintaining that there like individuals will never want to like coalesce with their government in a way that was like beneficial for community?
I believe so, because ultimately what you talked about, when communities seize their resources, ultimately for their benefit, government's decision is not simply just we want to take these resources because you don't deserve them, but everything that exists within the state is generally for the benefit of everyone. But we're also acknowledging the fact that whilst you're going to get some benefits, the state must also cater for everyone else around the country, because ultimately national interest takes precedence. Because if the state fails, that community is also bound to fail, because ultimately government and people have to work in hand in order to produce the viable deliverables that they need to actually prosper. So ultimately, yeah.
So again, you seem to believe that corruption is a big problem, and I think some of the channels that you think can mitigate it are things like the courts as well. Is that not also a governmental entity?
Yes, and I actually acknowledge that. However, the situation is following Botswana's lead. Stronger separation of powers, especially in case of what government has bodies, right? Yeah. You have the legislation, the judiciary, and all that kind of stuff, right? But then the issue with African states is that these bodies are actively too weak, and the head of the government, which is obviously the president, usually has insurmountable control over them. But then Botswana's this manner of leadership is rather quite different, in which the court can actually strike down mandates from the head of the government itself in order to cater for the needs of state community.
And so I'm guessing sort of the reason why you're saying this is also important is because you ultimately want to get to development.
Development will come on both sides of our houses, definitely. The only issue is that it's going to be difficult on your particular case because you are pitting government against people in a way that would complicate the growth.
We're getting a bit ahead of ourselves, but you would say that like development is then maybe this is too much to say, the single most important thing in this debate then?
Pardon?
Would you say development is the single most important thing on this
debate?
No,
it's social justice.
Okay. And you get to social justice through this developmental justice. Okay.
On both parties.
Okay. That's fine.
Is that okay?
Okay. So I really want to like touch back on this enforcement mechanism real quick. So you say you're following Botswana's lead, but ultimately your enforcement mechanism is the courts, correct? So are you making some like now independent body that's going to be able to reach across every African state so that they can follow Botswana's lead?
The issue is when it comes to...
I think it's just like a yes or no question.
Now, I will have to answer that in full respect, sorry. Because ultimately, what you're asking is, can a state be able to create an independent body that is capable of making decisions without necessarily conceding to what the government demands, right? And the Botswana situation, as I've proven it, is that actually true, because ultimately the judiciary can still.
Sure.
Yes.
That's sufficient. But I think we can both agree that that's like unique to one situation. Let's talk about like this. Let's talk about like Tanzania, right? That we're in right now. So like with the court of like human rights, right? Do you know what percentage of those cases are like actually like acted, like the policy that comes through those cases? Do you know what percentage is actually done?
Sir, I think I've already outlined the issue. The courts within Africa already have a problem. So the issue is in restructuring these courts, restructuring these legal bodies. Okay, thank you. Margaret, I'm joining you soon, right? So, yes.
Which way is it? Is
Oh.
it this way?
Oh, I'm coming back, of course. I didn't think about something. You know, right?
Let me listen to it.
Sorry. Oh, you already have one.
Just keep it.
I'll begin on my first word. What did we just hear out of the affirmative speaker, or negation speaker, I'm sorry. What did we just hear out of the negation speaker? We just heard that the main issue in today's debate is social justice. Let me tell you something. As I'm understanding this debate clearly, in our side of the house, we're quite directly giving people a voice in government. Yet they're telling us that they're trying to solve for social justice by not giving people voices in government. I don't see how this makes sense, but because they're choosing to frame it through this lens of social justice and fairness and equity, I'm going to have to say that as it stands currently, we are already winning this debate, right? But let's not stop there. I think we need to explain very clearly what's happening in today's debate, and I just want to make some space for some arguments and explain what we're doing on our side of the house to make sure that we're actually making development not just better, but more sustainable, and including everyone so that everyone can partake in the benefits of this development, right? So just off the bat, right, we recognize a couple of things, right? We've already shown you that co-governance produces growth, more local value, and cleaner governance, right? Now we show you that our current model does to the most vulnerable people in these communities. And we show you that this motion specifically has the power to undo one of the oldest structural harms of this continent, right? So my consideration for you is going to be environmental protection, right? Here's what I want you to recognize. Without community governments, extractive projects turn African land into sacrifice zones, right? Permanently destroyed territories where people are designated acceptable losses. Co-governance is the only structural mechanism that forces environmental accountability at the source, right? Now, here, what is a sacrifice zone? A sacrifice zone is a geographic area permanently altered by environmental destruction, typically through mining, oil extraction, or industrial land conversion, where the people who live there have no power to stop it. A 22 United Nations report found that millions of people globally live inside pollution sacrifice zones, concentrated around heavy industry and mining. The disproportionate burden falls on communities already experiencing systemic marginalization, right? In Africa, this is not abstract. The Niger Delta has been systemically destroyed by decades of oil extraction. The communities in the DRC live next to cobalt and coltan mines that poison water supplies. Coal mining communities in South Africa face documented cases where displacement, water contamination, and air pollution destroy health, livelihoods, and social life, right? These are not accidents. They are the predictable outcomes of a governance model in which those who bear the environmental costs have zero authority over the decisions that create them, right? Now, here's the thing, right? I want it to be clear what we're trying to get at and the impact we're getting at in today's debate. When we're talking about our co-governance model, recognize what we're saying is happening. We're saying that when you include the communities in these models that actually have a voice in government, what's going to be happening is that they're going to be advocating on behalf of these harms, these environmental harms that uniquely harm these communities. We recognize that by being able to have a voice in government, but they're going to not only be able to take part in the pot of money and also profits that are being created in this project, but they're also going to be able to advocate for better environmental standards that are not being currently advocated for in the status quo, right? Which is the government or the negation side of this debate, right? Now, getting into some refutation, because I think there's a couple of things on their side that I'm not getting at this as it stands currently, and I don't know if we will get towards the end of this debate, right? A couple of things I want to make it clear, right? They talk a lot about how they want to have governmental restructuring, right? Here's the thing I want to say. I do not necessarily understand what this means as it stands currently, right? All I'm hearing simply is that as my partner pointed out in this cross, is going to be something along the lines of an independent authority that somehow has control over, I don't know, the entirety of Africa, right? Well, let me tell you something. We were at the African Court for Human and People's Rights yesterday, right? You know what they said about their jurisdictions? They give many jurisdictions, every session they give many jurisdictions, right, about what the state of human rights in Africa. They said that only less than 10% of these jurisdictions are actually recognized as it stands currently because governments simply don't feel compelled to listen to these jurisdictions, right? Mind you, these jurisdictions are for the betterment of the people in Africa. We recognize that governments, being the composed of the same people they are still prone to just, not listening, right? Mind you, they talk a shit ton of a lot about corruption on their side of the house. They don't actually solve for it in their case. And if you actually think about it, corruption not only is more prolific in this case, it's just the status quo, right? So we're talking about government restructuring and separating the powers. They don't tell you how they actually intend to root out the corrupt people in government. All they say to you is that wants to make the courts more separating, wants to do this, wants to do that. No explanation of what that actually looks like on the ground. All I'm getting essentially is that it's still very prone to corruption for bribing for the judges, or if they're relying on the courts to just, be bought essentially by people that have the money to do so, right? Or just the government itself, be that the case, right? Now, a couple other things I want to get to very clearly, right? So again, I've already told you about, they try to argue that everyone's corrupt, but again, something they also say that kind of confuses me. They say that we're pitting the government against people, right? Now, here's what I'm getting very confused about, because what I'm understanding is that in our case, what we're literally saying is that we're not pitting the government against people. We recognize that in cases like the Lapset pipe project in Kenya, what happened was that the people were excluded from the project, and as a result were not only expatriated from their land, but also weren't able to access the profits of it. What we are saying is that these people just wanted a part in the profits. They're fishermen. That's their job, right? We recognize that by being able to partake in the pipe project and being able to get some of the profits from, or even help out, they would have actually been satisfied in doing so, but that wasn't what happened because the government didn't allow for them to be excluded. I don't recognize how on our side of the house we're excluding people, or rather putting the government against the people, when in actuality, when we're including them, we're making sure that we create a baseline of agreements across all parties, including the investors, including the community, including the government, that actually come to at least the better outcomes for everyone, right? Both environmentally and also generally, right? So just closing out and telling you again why we win today's debate, right? I just want to make it very clear what we're saying on our side of the house. We're saying that by creating these co-governance bodies, we're quite literally solving for the social justice that we talk about, right? By literally giving these people a voice in government, by giving them an opportunity to elect people locally to represent themselves in such a way where these extraction projects are no longer just extraction enclaves, but rather in projects that help the community. We're seeing that this is quite literally one of the easiest and most effective ways to develop the continent in all states on this this continent. And I'll use the rest of my time. Yeah, I'm done. Ready for cost.
Okay.
That was a lot.
You talk an awful lot about community involvement within the decision-making process in order to benefit said community in delivering of social services. But I ask you, considering that you've been critiquing our point on corruption, who is to stop the seizure of the community seat, given that, as you well acknowledged, the government and the investors have a lot of money, and as you've already acknowledged, that does play a good part in how many of these systems are structured?
So I think two things I'll say to that. Number one, recognize what's happening in our side of the house. We're saying that we're trying to, in our model, we clearly say, I'll just read it out for you now, right? When we're talking with your community representatives, we're talking about essentially people that are elected or selected through transparent local process, right? Transparent being the key word here, because what we're getting essentially is that we're trying to make sure that for each affected community, they're effectively choosing people that can represent their interests in the government, right? Secondarily, what I'm also getting at is I think in our side of the house, we recognize that you guys are actually more prone to corruption because of the amount of people that are at hand, right? People that are already prone to corruption, we recognize that the courts, the freaking government officials, we already see this is already happening. We don't see it being as likely happening in our side of the house because we're talking these locally elected representatives. What we see happening is that they're less likely to defer or try to go away from what the community wants for them because they recognize the hierarchy that's been placed and set. You don't see them deferring from this hierarchy as often as it would be in your side of the house, where the government officials have no actual care for people living in their constituencies.
You did listen to our criteria for MP selection, correct?
Okay, well, if you like to restate it, because I heard
okay.
more transparent processes for that as well. That was the goal, correct?
Okay. Studying how the government will be required by law to give in sentencing. Okay, so another question is that in core governance, you are under the impression that the community does have equal power to simply stop government from seizing their land, given that they have jurisdiction over that land, correct?
That's not necessarily where we're getting at, but sure. No.
If not, okay, then I ask you this. Who is to stop government from seizing land? Because ultimately, you talk about how core governance is coordinated leadership across these three bodies, but then I ask you,
who is to be accountable for those said parties, considering that in many cases, communities simply just like the power to enforce whatever it is that they want on these governments.
Is your question, what if the government just breaks the laws?
Yes, I'm asking basically that.
At this point, this isn't even a debate then, because all the institutional mechanisms you talk about can just be washed away.
I don't think you're understanding. You are supposed to prove accountability and power.
I actually think it's better anyway, because in our model, we have more checks and balances, and we have those who have.
Which checks and balances? Which checks and balances is the question.
Okay, so I'll answer your question two ways.
Yes.
Number one, the checks and balances are the people itself. We recognize, I'm talking about this deferential hierarchy that we see happening. We're seeing local representatives are not going to break away from that hierarchy to just promote their own interests, i.e. they're not like to be corrupt. Secondarily, we're talking about the benefits of this. What we're seeing happening is that we're seeing a baseline of agreements, even if the government's like, we're going to take your land regardless, which is the worst case scenario. What we see happening is that there's still much more likely that in the current world, the government may just take the land and do not give them anything, no profit, no participation, no nothing. We're seeing that in our world, the communities have at least a baseline to try to buy in for participation in these projects to get profit, to get training, get in regulation, education, so on and so forth.
I think this will be my last thing. I think it's just an acknowledgement that many of the cases that you've put out, the incentives that governments are legally supposed to give their people, training, all that kind of stuff has been mentioned. My only question was, how do you hold government accountable? That's the issue that I'm simply not trying to get, because there's a difference between simply saying, we will hold you accountable, and trying to understate the realities of African governance, which is why I believe structural reformation of governments, but I think I'm wasting too much of your time.
I mean, yeah, you're like right over time, actually.
Yes, my apologies for that.
I mean, here's what I'll say. I think my partner will get to that in his speech. Okay.
Okay, I start in 3, 2, 1. We are against co-governance because we don't see the need to have governance in a world where we can still achieve the same and even more benefits for a greater number of people on our side of the world. First of all, to begin with, I would like to bring out the chart on legitimacy. The government is essentially comprising of people who have already been elected by the citizens themselves to represent their interests. People like the MPs, the MCAs, and the like are people who are within those communities, in fact in each and every of the communities that are elected to represent them. Now we do acknowledge that there is a lot of corruption and bribery that goes into these MPs and MCAs, but as my partner has highlighted, there are a lot of policies that we are bringing about to curb this, and we are saying that we're going to heavily punish these people such that they're going to be less incentivized to do things like this, because that they know that what's at stake is really large, because we're going to air their dirty linen in public. We're going to seize all their assets, not just the ones that they stole, and then we're going to ban them from going to any other seat in the future and things like this. We also want to bring in the chart of separation of power, because if indeed the courts are flawed, as we're saying, but we can have a legal framework where we have the separation of power such that the courts can be able to make a decision without the influence of the government, and this is the world that we're trying to champion for. So on that note, it counters the whole chart on corruption and stuff like that. I think another thing that is also important to note here is that the sustainability of this type of implementation. In the long term, what we are trying to champion for is sustainable, because again, this is a government that has undertaken a lot of development projects over the years. They have the know-how, they have the connections, they have the network, they have the resources, the partnerships, and they're able to acquire this. And they can only have like a great negotiating power when the investors are not going to say that, oh, what if the people don't want this? What if I choose to invest here and then my money goes away and stuff like that? So this will like essentially bring about more economic growth. And why is this economic growth important, especially in the context of social justice? Because when there is economic growth, even within the community, that already my partner has talked about the regulations that are going to be in place. And if you didn't hear, let me just reiterate that even on the chat on environmental harms that we are going to, that you say that we're going to have, there are obviously going to be legal regulations that will ensure that the power is given to this environmental regulating systems that can be able to ensure that the harms that come from here will not be had, because before they undertake any project, they have to show their blueprint, their map, and how they're going to curb all these environmental and social harms that are going to be there, right? And so, what did I say? Oh, and so on that, right, we think that it is more sustainable in the long run. I think I lost my train of thought. Anyway, moving on. What do we do? Oh yeah, what do you do to ensure this like social justice in the context? What do we do to ensure these benefits in the context of social justice? So the economic benefits. Think about a community that is poor, because a lot of African communities are poor, and the reason even we undertake these development projects is to improve the livelihood of these people, which again I think is a plus on social justice, right? So if we build, say, a railway or something of the sort, there's going to be a lot of benefits that are going to come here, because there's going to be a lot of tourism, a lot of economic collaboration with other counties. Basically, you're going to be able to get, let's say it's rice from this particular county moving to this other county. It's going to be easier and cheaper for the people who are going to sell. So even the most vulnerable people, say the market dwellers and the sellers and things like this, they're going to benefit from all these things, which is essentially going to improve their livelihood and improve their dignity, which is essentially what such social justice is doing. So what we're doing is that we're ensuring that the dignity of these people is maintained in the long run, whereas we still account for like the social and environmental harms by having all these regulations that we are trying to push for, and by establishing that the courts have like a separation of power that enables them to better implement their decisions, right? And so we also say that on the chart of improving the livelihood, I think it's a no-brainer to say that the job creation will literally very much improve their livelihood, because what is social justice? It is equity, right? And equity means that there is fairness in the allocation of resources, not just in that community, but in the whole like country as a large. So I think we fail, or rather we lack to see like a mechanism of how you're going to pick these people who are going to contribute to this like what do you call it, to this co-governance system that you're going to have. And people are more likely, these people are more likely, because a lot of the countries and a lot of the communities in Africa within their countries, right, are basically very tribal communities. So you're going to have a lot of these people who don't have the technical know-how and have a lot of tribal background. And so the decisions that they're going to be making, and even if they have a seat on the table, they're likely to be biased because, oh, I don't want this particular thing to happen because it's going to benefit said community. And that's a very real thing that happens already in status quo. We also say that there's a we also say that we ensure accountability by the measures we told you about, the strict measures, the airing of the dirty linen, the seizing of the assets, the separation of the power, etc., etc. And also, okay, yeah, so also the stability is very lucrative for the investors. I think that's a no-brainer, because investors want to work in a place where this stability is ensured. I'll take our eyes to Chad, for example. They had this sort of like co-governance mechanism that they tried to have with the pipeline and the fuel, but it didn't really fly. The investors lost a lot of money, because what the government did after that is that they went behind the backs and channeled this money to the military instead of like to the social development of the nation. And these are the harms that propagate from this co-governance. It creates a lot of confusion in the long run, instead of just having like one system that is going to be able to do all of this. We say that the private investors are more likely to do things that will like, are more likely not to do things that will harm the people, because already we see in status quo companies like Nestle and Milo having a lot of backlash from the people because of like the harms that are propagated to the community. Thank you.
Great. Are you ready? We'll begin in 3, 2, 1. Well, thank you for the economic lesson there. I think you just finished by telling us that jobs mean better outcomes for the people. Is this correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that like jobs are beneficial because of all these sort of downstream effects that we get as well. And I think you listed out a number of impacts. So I do have a question. If we can show that we create more jobs and more economic activity on our side, do we win the debate?
No.
Why is that then? What other
Because
things
how
are
do
more
you
important?
ensure social justice for all the people and not just the communities?
Fascinating. If we could then show that we're also able to redistribute to those people as well, would that maybe be an important factor?
Ask the judge.
Wonderful. All right, you can ask your question.
Okay, so going on to your point concerning MPs, I just want to make it clear. You're saying that in your model, they're going to be less incentivized to be corrupt because they're going to be removed from government or something, right?
There are a lot of mechanisms as to how we are going to curb this corruption.
Can you give me some of the mechanisms? Because I'm not really understanding how it's working
so
as
the
it stands currently.
mechanisms are including the separation of power such that the courts have high power over the government and are able to implement this like all the other measures that we talk about. And also we have the airing of the dirty linen and the seizure of assets that we're talking about as well.
So I think a big thing, you're talking about the courts, right? Like, what does separation of power for the courts actually look like?
Okay, it looks like the courts not being influenced by the government.
How do you ensure that?
We ensure that separation of power through just like legal mechanisms and being stringent.
Okay. I'm a bit confused. You keep mentioning these legal mechanisms, but your partner just said that like the government sometimes just chooses to ignore these and just breaks the law. So how is it that you can say on our side the government will just break the law and not care, but on your side they somehow care about these legal mechanisms? There's this sort of like asymmetry here, and could you please explain it to me?
I don't get your question.
I think I can ask it more plainly. Yeah, so your partner came up here and said that like the government will just find ways to break the law.
Did you ask my partner the question?
I did, yes. And so
Asked and answered.
Oh, okay. So you want me to? Okay, I'll ask you a question. Straight up? Okay, fine. Do you think it's likely that the government is just going to find workarounds to break the law?
Likely. Yes, if we don't have these mechanisms, but we do. So.
But your government. But the government in question that you're saying yes is likely is your mechanism. So if you think that it's likely, they're just going to
Our
skirt the law.
mechanism in separation of power, and it's like very important that you understand that the courts will have higher
sufficient.
authority to be able to implement all the other mechanisms that we try and give.
I don't see time. Okay. And so another thing I just want to bring up, you talk about how like a lot of these people that are likely going to be local representatives are going to have tribal backgrounds, so they're not going to like have like a lot of knowledge about these projects, and they're also going to be like want to support other tribal communities when it comes to these projects, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you do recognize that each extractive project on its own is going to have a unique board, right? It's not going to be.
Pardon.
You recognize that. So recognize what that means. I'm just going to say it plainly. What that means is that for each extractive project, it's going to be an independent board based on that specific community, right? There's unlikely to be multiple communities involved. No more than 3 probably realistically at times. It's not going to be like 20 communities. No match projects, just one by one. You recognize that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you lose solvency on that point. Okay, that makes sense.
Last question. I don't know if I've heard it here. Can you cite us a single statistic?
A single
Yes.
statistic.
Yes.
I think the example about how Chad tried to implement.
That's not a statistic. A statistic would be like X% happened here according to X. So
I think my partner also mentioned about Burkina Faso, Singapore, and what is the other
they
one?
never use statistics, but thank you there. That's sufficient. Is it clip on or something else? Sure. We'll put it here, I guess. Am I inept? How does this clip on exactly? I did not see this. Yeah, it works. Whatever. That's where it'll be. We'll begin in 3, 2, 1. This is probably the most clear-cut debate of the day I've had, and the reason for it is simple. Worked in Botswana. That is what the entirety of their model has been. It worked in one country in Africa, therefore it'll work for all the others. And even when they do give a different country, they tell us about Singapore. What are we doing here? None of their examples are like pertinent to the round, and they didn't give a single statistic. Like generally, I think we could end the debate off of that because it's clear one side has done research and the other is just simply conjecture. What then is their second strategic failure? Well, they tell us that we have government restructure. We're going to have separation of power, institutional mechanisms, the core, channels to mitigation, transparency, legal regulation. But then what do they tell us? The government might just break the law. At the point that we're arguing this, what are you even talking about? Because at the very worst, we're just awash because the government will be breaking the law regardless. And so none of the institutional mechanisms you bring up can even be used as an argument against us. But here's why it's actually worse on your side. Your side of the house relies on the government more. Corruption is starting with the government in your world, and you only entrench how much we rely on them. We bring in a secondary actor now, the community, who now gets a say in government. And so when you're like, can the community be affected as well? Yes, but we already know the government's corrupt in your world, and you're just giving them even more power. Now, why is it again? What's their third strategic failure? Never in a round have they ever gone against another team who completely doesn't respond to anything we say. We had 5 contentions, 5, and they didn't respond to any of them. More development, more money staying in Africa, sustainability, women, the environment. None of this goes contested against. Just based off of simple debate rules, we literally have to win the debate because they never respond to any of us. But let's go through it, starting with everything that's wrong with their case. First, what do they bring up? One, they bring up this idea of like, people, like the governments are going to become terrified when nobody wants to vote for them with their new model that they never really explained out, and they're somehow just going to capitulate to the people, and that for some reason we don't consider private investors and that we have the government against the people. Notably for this, there's no evidence given for why any of this would be. This is just pure capitulation. If anything, we say when less people vote, it actually makes it even easier for the government because now they only need to focus on smaller groups of people. Right? What's the next thing that they bring up? They bring up this idea of corruption. Why do we think corruption is so much worse in their world? First, corruption is actually starting with the government. That's why there's corruption in Africa. It's the government that's doing it. But then secondly, then they bring up this idea of how we hold the government accountable. And instead of further entrenching power there, we say we should instead bring out outside entities who have competing claims against the government. They say this idea that we have people against the government, which is probably a mischaracterization, but let's accept it. Let's say we do have people against the government. In our world, we now have people who are now pushing back. In our tripartite model, we equally distribute power. We have checks and balances. They don't have that. They only further rely on the courts and other systems that we've already seen fail. But then, for the rest of my 3 minutes, I'm just going to talk about everything that they flow through to the end of the round. First then, why do we win on the economy? Why do we have better jobs? Why do we have better outcomes that we finally heard in their last speech? First, less disruption. With no legal channels, communities turn towards resistance. We've already seen this in the Niger Delta, where because of protests that happened there, because the community was not included, they sort of protested and they shut down a lot of the operations that were happening there, and it further de-incentivizes production. Our model fundamentally changes these incentives by giving communities an ownership stake, and the local populace now rather benefits rather than being systems of development. They gain a direct interest when these models are successful. Secondly, then, we tell you reduce corruption and resource theft. We say traditional extractive arrangements are often dominated by governments and multinational corporations, and this creates opportunities for corruption. In our model, community governance with checks and balances, local stakeholders can monitor negotiations and challenge suspicious agreements and increase transparency. The result of this is these countries now have more money and less wealth is being drained from the country. 3, building stronger economies. Community participation gives local populations greater bargaining power during negotiation. This translates into commitments for local hiring and local procurement and skills training and domestic processing. What we're literally doing is we're increasing the greater economic diversification and long-term productivity. And then finally, we say to you, we're attracting more investors. Modern investors increasingly evaluate projects according to environmental and social governance standards. So these are things like pension funds and development finance institutions. And many of them now view community consent as an indicator of political and operational stability. So we're literally now getting more money in our model because we now are complying with these standards by including the community. So just based off of the economy and the jobs that they say translates into material conditions, we win there. What's the second reason we win? Well, we tell you women. We say that women are 50% of the population, and any sort of model that doesn't include them, as we're seeing right now in the status quo, is fundamentally unjust. But more than that, we tell you that including women in governance structures is actually really beneficial. As my partner tells you, they're good environmental stewards as well. More than that, though, we tell you about sustainability. We tell you that when communities are involved in the process, they don't just think about it in terms of election cycles or annual quarterly reports. They have to live there. That's why they care. That's why they want the place to stay good, essentially. They don't want their air poisoned. But then finally, we tell you about this idea of the environment, which we think builds off of this. We say that communities have the local knowledge to know how to take care of the environment they're in. And when they get to directly vote on what's happening there, that we have much better outcomes. It's for all these reasons, it's so obvious that it must be a sweep over here. Thank you so much. All right.
My, my time starts in 3, 2, 1. I will start off by layering out what my first and second speaker said. Then I'll move to the main clashes of this debate. My first speaker came here and mentioned that the government restructure in the sense that the people the people who vie for these seats follow the requirements that will be created for them to ultimately qualify to attain the seat. This will actually improve the partnership between the community and the government, which ensures social justice. The leaders in the government should also be elected by the people according to this. To social services they provide, and the leaders in the government should also be elected by the people according to the social services they provide. And if the leaders in the government do not adhere to this requirement, that was set, they will be impeached. We said that they will be impeached and their assets will be seized. We gave an example of Botswana, a country in Africa that is already implementing this and it's working. We also mentioned that about the benefits that will come from our side of the house. So number one, economic growth. The government already have the know-how of how to implement these projects because they have implemented much more projects before. It also improves their livelihood, or it also improves the livelihood of the people. That was said by my second speaker. The livelihood of the people in the community economically through job creations. We also mentioned about the sustainability aspect, where the government already put in place requirements that ensure sustainability, and this actually brings more investors to the country. Which actually fastens the projects. The clashes, I'll move on to the clashes in the debate. The core government means all three have a say-so. So what good will come when you act a government that you all acknowledge is flawed rather than the restructure. On accountability, who will hold all the three parties liable? Who gets the final say? What of the gridlock in the decision making? Still on accountability, on our side of the house, we ensure this by restructuring the government with through restructuring of power and seizure of assets that ensures accountability through equality and equity. Through this, we ensure social justice to the people. I rest my case.
Thank you.
Yeah, after here, I'm pretty sure that they will come.
Okay.
Can we get the feedback? Be careful of the camera, guys. Yeah, it is. I was trying to see how I can get myself in the camera frame. Just saying, be careful of the camera. I wasn't.
Okay, what's that? Okay.
Yeah, actually, yeah. I know what you're doing. No, stop. You didn't believe in us. You don't get you said believe. How dare you? No. I don't. I knew it.
Okay.
There's no excuse. I'm not gonna lie. Like, also, if you think it was like, no. If you think it was like 45 minutes, you really thought we were recording. No, that's what you thought.
Is Nigel coming? So I just give the feedback.
That's not a representation of.
So I just start. I start. Oh, hi everyone. So would you like the call or the feedback first? Okay. So which side? Side affirmative one. Yeah. So on feedback, so general feedback is that I feel like there was a lot of misunderstanding in this debate and a lot of, I don't know, dwelling on issues that weren't really what the debate is about. I don't know if that makes any sense. So yeah, I feel like there was a lot of back and forth, misunderstanding, going back over, revisiting the same thing over and over again, and that it was bringing a lot of misunderstanding. Just general feedback on the debate. Yeah, because
also on my part, it was taking a lot of time for me to understand some things. I'd get things that the first speaker said. By the time the third speaker is speaking is when I'm getting some things. So there are a lot. Also, I feel like there were a lot of gaps that were left in your, let me say, there's no mechanization. So there were a lot of gaps. And that's why I'm saying, like, the first speaker, for example, would say something, then I'd get it I'd get it from the third speaker or second speaker, yeah. So that's general feedback. And also the first speakers, there was no, what framework? There was, what were we working with here? Yeah, so for the first speakers, none of the first speakers gave me a framework. So it was a bit hard because I had to pick the framework from the other speakers moving forward. Or there was a bit of framework from both sides, but it was still insufficient framework, and I feel like that's what brought a lot of misunderstanding along the way. Yeah, that's general feedback. If you want personal feedback, you can come for personal feedback. Okay.
it's the fastest you can buy. Whatever the fastest you can buy, that's the battle. Yeah. I just remember when I bought it, I was like, because whenever I do these transferring the files always takes so long. So I was like, I gotta get the fastest thing because you don't have time. You know, you can't spend all. Yeah, I want to do all night transferring files. Trying to consolidate and share. That's it. You done? Yeah. Everything. Everything. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's what we're looking at. One and then second. Exactly. I appreciate you so much. No, I'm sure you will. Stop calling me. Sorry, hold on. Being outside actually helped me. Normally, the debates are outside, but I'm like, oh.
Our staff was
Yeah.
perfect.
I was standing on the stairs, exactly.
The printers was nice.
Yeah, I wasn't consistent because of his face.
Yeah, the background sound.
Yeah.
I think that is more perfect, but it's playing like live.
Yeah.
The sound of the people.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
So you have like the sequence of this speaker.
Yeah.
Like it's a different thing. Yeah, please. When like this super statement, you can lower the news, the background.
Yeah, I'll lower it. Yeah, it's a little loud. I agree.
Yeah.
Actually, I agree. Yeah, I'll lower this one too. That was with the drone. Yeah, so that's what I was working on. Like during the day, I just do a little bit. So then that way, when I'm done, the next day I'm already done. Like I already have a highlight.
You don't have.
I have a highlight to share.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I'm gonna do like all the little stuff. Like I haven't done any color correction. It's just all raw. Yeah. So
Because you
at least I have an idea.
like I feel that you're doing a lot of things.
Yeah.
There's like content. You have like speeches.
Yeah.
And that's different explore different business.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and try.
So I appreciate it. I appreciate you sharing with me. That's gonna make my life easier. Great. You gonna be there tomorrow?
Yeah.
So you live streaming tomorrow?
Yeah, we are having tomorrow.
Yeah.
Then Monday,
Catch up.
Yeah,
well, I'm going to Dar. I'm flying to Dar on Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'll be in Dar all week.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we take it.